You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 415, our Star Wars Celebration Retrospective. Yes, we could have called this recap, but retrospective just sounds so much more substantial. And so tonight we're going to kind of just reflect on Celebration as a whole, right? Everything from what it was like to get there, our experiences, some of the people that we got to meet, some of the interactions, some of the surprises that we had there that we've not shared with anybody outside of ourselves. And I don't mean anything that happened in the hotel room afterwards, nothing like that. And then also kind of talk about high level, talk about a lot of the content that was shown, trailers, teasers, posters, new announcements for all kinds of things, Star Wars. It was just a wonderful time. And I couldn't have done it without this gentleman right here. He's back and a little bit under the weather, but you're here, man. Yeah. Welcome. If he sounds different, it's because he's
right. Little worse for wear, but otherwise doing all right.
Yeah. How you feeling tonight? How you doing?
Yeah, doing all right, man. We survived.
Yeah.
We survived the weekend. It was chaos, man, but it was a lot of fun. And I guess we have to put out an apology first, don't we? Of like, hey, sorry we haven't dropped reviews of Kenobi or reviews of trailers and everything, but we will talk about it. But man, we were busy. And every time we came back, we were just straight up exhausted. So
yeah, it dawns on you, one, how old you are, two, just how much information is thrown at you. It's so funny too, because people were texting and pinging me and hitting me on Discord and social media and saying, hey, what do you guys think of that? Or have you seen this? And I'm like, I haven't even seen that yet. You guys got news before we did most of the time, if not all the time. Because unless you're at the panels, you don't really get to, there's no like big announcement. This one was a little different too. I mean, I don't want to jump too far ahead here, but this one was a little different in that in Chicago, there were like there were screens everywhere, right? So you couldn't not see what was going on, even if though you weren't in the panels themselves. They did a really good job of kind of bringing it to you. And this one was like, unless you were sitting there in that stadium or you were in one of the auxiliary ones where they had it, streamed or whatever. You were kind of in the dark. A lot of what we were finding out was kind of word of mouth, and people, run into somebody and say, hey, did you hear about this? And some of it was rumors. Like we were like, no, I swear I heard this and I saw that. And I heard someone say this about this trailer. And it was just kind of a weird situation to be in, very different than 2019 for the most part.
Yeah, very different. Yeah. And the Celebration live stage was way in the back of the exhibit floor. So it wasn't it felt like Chicago was very front and center or really centralized. So you could not know where it was at and not come across it. And you're exactly right that you could find a TV with something going on that you would at least be in the know as to what happened. But otherwise you were in line talking with someone else and they would be telling you everything that happened. And this is one of the very unlike Chicago. And we'll talk about it, but we got into everything in Chicago, and this one we got into literally one thing, and so it was very different trying to get our information while still having a packed schedule at the same time.
Yeah, I got it in nothing at this year. I'm trying to think. Was that because we had a media pass? I don't remember. No, it wasn't. Right? Because we still had a queue.
We were just unsuccessful in our lottery picks.
Yeah, more on that later. All right. Well, we've got this whole show is news really, right. But there's been a couple things that have popped up here in just in the last 24, 48 hours since we left Anaheim. What's the first one that you had on here? Sorry,
Disney Plus Day has been announced as September 8th, and supposedly they will actually have Star Wars related content.
Wow, go figure. That'd be amazing if they did.
Right. I mean, they did last time technically.
Sure.
Although we called it a Disney Plus Day sizzle fizzle or something to that effect.
Sizzle fizzle, I think as we called it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit disappointing. So supposedly there will be new announcements though at this year's Disney Plus Day. So this is why you guys have us. We will check into that on September 8th, and we will bring you anything worthy of your attention.
And that one we do promise. Not like Celebration this year.
Well, we promised a lot of things, and we eventually will get to them.
Yeah.
We promise.
Oh, well, wait till you see the backlog of shows that we have now that we've got to get through.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. But this wasn't you. You put this in there. I
Yeah,
had
I
not heard
just-
this. Yeah, go ahead.
I just stumbled over this. Cinema Blend had an article that said that the Kathleen Kennedy actually acknowledged that the Lando series is something they're doing.
Right.
Because I think before we had heard her say to, I think in the Vanity Fair, that there was nothing concrete. They've not signed any deals, and maybe I might be mixing and matching some sources here, but in this one, she seemed to acknowledge that, but it's very much dependent on Donald Glover's availability at this point. She says that the it's all in his court, and he's just a really, really busy guy. And so while he made a comment on late night TV saying that he was working on this thing for Lando,
Mm-hmm.
there's really no indicator as to when this is going to even remotely get off the ground or get started.
Yeah.
So when we know you got a show, we have a showrunner attached to it, of course, but really, has there been any writing done? Is there a script? Is there something they're kicking back and forth? I'm sure there's lots of ideas. And where are we at? We have no idea in this process. But it was just, I just kind of stumbled on that right before we came on air and thought I'd throw that in there, that there was acknowledgement though from KK that there is Lando stuff in development.
Yeah. So, and I think so in the Vanity Fair article, what was not clear, what she failed to do was come out and say, yes, Donald Glover is going to be in it. She said everything shy of that. She mentioned that it's still coming, but beyond that, again, like to your point, there really wasn't any other information. And so that left a lot of people to think, well, she didn't drop his name. So therefore could it be somebody like Billy D. Williams? Could it be another actor? Could it be, whatever that her announcement was in that Vanity Fair article left a lot to the imagination, but this is good. I mean, it at least confirms that they are seriously thinking about Donald Glover. I would hope so, since he's kind of the Lando. I mean,
much is right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, so long as his schedule frees up. Now, the good news is we have no shortage of shows coming out on Disney Plus, at least for the foreseeable 18 months, at least, maybe even 2 years. So that bodes well. I mean, we don't have to worry about whether or not we're not going to have anything to talk about or see. But definitely not the case, as you'll find out here in just a little bit.
Absolutely. And hey, there was one piece of thing. You and I, we don't usually bring a lot of this stuff up, but there's been a lot of stuff out there with people's reception to the Inquisitor and to Moses Ingram, and how StarWars.com has reacted or put this out there about racist comments and some of the threats that Moses Ingram has been getting.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, there's no room in our fandom for this stuff, at all. And we're both, I don't want to speak for Albert, but I'm pretty sure I probably could in this regard. We don't have any tolerance for this kind of stuff either. And we both think there's actually a lot of depth to uncover with the character itself. We both had an initial reaction to that as well when we were talking about after we watched the first episode. And but to go and attack the person in particular, and then for all spiral out of control, is just, that stuff is nonsense, folks. We don't need that kind of stuff in our fandom. And we're thankful for listeners like all of you who definitely rise above all of this type of stuff. But we just wanted to, I wanted to come out and make a comment about that was just, we don't have any tolerance here at the Cantina Cast for it. And when we hope Moses Ingram keeps her chin up, but just know that there's a lot of people out there that love what she's doing with the character and are really interested to see where we go for the next several episodes.
Yeah, I mean, and there's no tolerance for racism anywhere, right? Our fandom or not, to be honest. And I mean, it's disgusting what they're doing. I know there's been a lot of discussion too around, well, they didn't come to Boyega's, side when things were happening there. And I think people that say that really don't truly understand that situation in its full context. Yes, I think they could have done more. The way I see it is they're self-correcting, right? They learned their lesson from Boyega's experience. China had a lot to do with that. There's certain rules and regulations that you just have to play by in order to get a movie out there. And, unfortunately, if that's what they want to do, they did it. I don't know if they regret the decision or not, but the fact is they are self-correcting there. I think they're doing the right thing by publicly speaking out and posting about what's happening to Moses Ingram. But yeah, I mean, to your point, she just needs to weather the storm. I know it sucks, and I know this is hard. She came out and released an Instagram post where she was talking about and said she's just not built as someone who just kind of stands by idle and doesn't say anything or doesn't react. But she's done a really good job, and I think she's had a lot of people that have stepped up and helped her get through all of this. Specifically, Ahmed Best posted something recently too in support of her. She's had a number of other celebrities and other stars in Star Wars fandom step forward and kind of show their support. So I think she's going to be okay. And again, we got to keep in mind perspective. This happens because big media news outlets give these people the voice. They see these YouTubers, and yes, they may have a good following, and yes, they may have, they're putting out tons and tons of content, but they don't speak for the majority of our fandom at all. Period. It does buy them clicks. It does buy them, page hits to put this stuff out there. It certainly gets people talking about their outlet because they're the ones carrying these stories. But I think by and large, as a society, we're better than that. And I think more than anything in Star Wars, that is the case as well. Same thing with like Star Trek, and the exclusivity hasn't always been there as long as it has with Star Trek. But I think since Disney's come on board, they've made some pretty good progress, and they're continuing to make progress. In fact, a little bit later, we'll kind of talk about representation because three of the panels were on representation alone.
And they were amazing panels too.
Yeah.
I mean, and thankfully we got to, have dinner and drinks with Issa and Rina after one of them, and which was just a fantastic conversation with them afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right.
So yeah, I mean, this is the one thing that we kept talking about, and this will be the last thing I say just quickly, but the one thing we kept talking about as we were talking to people about issues like this and representation and, where does this fandom exist? I think by and large, you'll see a lot of folks are on board. A lot of people do understand what that means. Either they always have, or they're starting to come around and see it now, which is a good thing. So these are all the pains of change. And it's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to happen in small steps and small iterations. And this is the first step. So if you can get behind Moses Ingram, get behind any of the actors or anybody that's taking crap, and to look at Kelly Marie Tran as well, right? She was another recent example where she kind of went through all of this. So it's funny too. Like, I wonder why it's always, aside from John Boyega, it seems to be all the women. I wonder why they get attacked more than anyone else. So, so we've got a lot of sexism, racism, ageism. There's all kinds of stuff going on out there, but we'll squash it out eventually.
We've got a lot of work to do, but
yeah.
But again, I'm with you. It even if you've not done the best job in the past, you have a choice to make now, and we can continue moving that forward with every decision we make here on out. And then we just keep it. And Rina said it, we'll talk a little bit about Rina Santos in a bit, but she said it best to me. She's like, we just have to keep pushing forward. We have to keep making progress, and that's what it's all about. And increasing awareness and supporting one another. And Moses Ingram was absolutely loved by the entire crowd at Celebration, by the way.
Yeah.
So the people who are there and the people who want to engage in all of this stuff and, embrace the content and everything else. And we'll be critical of it where we need to be. Absolutely. But man, she was nothing but loved, and she was very engaging at the con, and just, man, we had a great time anytime that we saw a video with her going on. I didn't have the pleasure of being any of the things that she was at, but just all the videos that we saw replayed seemed to be amazing.
Yeah. And Jorge Castro says, thanks for talking about this. Did you see Ewan's message? Yes. I think it was today. In fact, this morning he came out and expressed his support of her as well. So it's not just, the producers and writers and people and, kind of in the background, or, I'm going to call it lesser tiers. I mean, these are like the biggest actors out there. And, it's not the first time either. Look at Pedro Pascal and what he did. He was front and center supporting a lot of this discourse that was happening a couple years ago with Mando. So anyways, I guess we'll probably continue to talk about this. I think it's worth at least bringing up and making sure that we're helping to do our part to spread that message and show our support in any way we can. But for now, let's get into our. We've got a review, which was quite lengthy. So thank you, Lucid Truth, because it actually is well written. And Jonesy, you want to? I don't know how your voice good enough to take this one.
We'll give it a shot here.
All right.
So Lucid Truth gave us a review over on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, I guess technically now, and a 5-star review called The Podcast with the Higher Ground. It says, Dear Cantina Cast, where do you get off? Great thought-provoking Star Wars talk and interesting speculation. Who do you think you are? By now, you may have guessed I'm speaking ironically and have nothing but good things to say about what you do. Cantina Cast, do not change a thing. Signed, Lucid Truth. Dictated but not read. Do you not like sand? This podcast has zero sand. We might have a little sand sometimes. This podcast has zero sand. You could try their Star Wars podcast out there, but you'll be missing the target more than a stormtrooper with a blaster. Stop looking and make the jump to hyperspace with Albert and Jonesy. Seriously, though, these guys know Star Wars. Every episode, they'll make you think, speculate, and laugh. They have some great chemistry and have terrific insights. If you're looking for a refreshing Star Wars community, this is it. Thank you so much, Tim. We certainly appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Thanks for doing that. And more on that a little bit later. So,
absolutely.
Okay. What else? Is that all we have? Or do you want to get into this? Want to talk about this stuff?
I think we did have a Patreon member who increased their tier to our new
$10.
$10 plus a little extra tier.
Oh, is
yeah,
that what
we
it's
actually,
plus a little extra?
Yeah, we didn't really advertise this because but we've had folks who have asked to have a higher tier, still get all the benefits and everything without having to do a custom. So we did add another tier out there for those that are interested in doing more than the green milk, which is the $5 up to a $10. So if you want to, it's out there. We'll give you a special little blurb in the credits here once we get resettled here with the show. And then also, if anything we start to do brand new, we'll actually give you guys very first kind of information about it and give you a heads up on what's going on. But anyway, just thanks for doing that. And again, we'll get the name and everything. I'm a bit unprepared today, but we will make that correction if we go on air here on Thursday.
You're lucky.
Anyways, thank you.
Yeah, no, you're lucky he got out of bed. He's like death's door right now.
Yeah, I've been in bed literally all day.
Okay. So, I guess we could talk about the. Oh, and by the way, yeah. So since Celebration 2023 is coming up, yeah, the $10 donations would help quite a bit. Okay, so let's talk about the
for you maybe
for Europe, right? Let's talk about, I guess, our overall thoughts on this year's conventions. We kind of broke the seal just a little bit about that, but apart from being overly tired, what were your thoughts about this? Like, what were some of the things that really, some of your highlights, things that stood out for you? And then we can talk good or bad. I mean, I think the criticism is fair, and I think we're going to have the same criticism a lot of people had because it was just, there was a lot of just chatter and banter going back and forth about some of the things that were different from previous celebrations.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the weather could not have been more perfect.
Oh, it was horrible. Horrible.
I mean, coming from Texas where we were already in the 90s, mid 90s, and of course here on the coast, the humidity was, beginning to ripen up a little bit. It was nice to go out there where I don't know if it hit 80 degrees any of the days we were there.
It was like 78, no humidity. I mean, just
like blue skies. I mean, Southern California earned its reputation while we were there. It was absolutely beautiful. And man, we had a nice room. Twan did a great job finding us a nice Airbnb. So thank you to Twan for doing that for us and getting us set up there. And but the convention itself, some of the good things I think was security seemed to be a bit smoother this time around. I question how actual secure it was because the beeping and the way that they were doing it was a little bit interesting. I couldn't quite figure out how it was working, but
it was a little sketchy.
Yeah. But things kept moving. I think that was always the important thing. Things kept moving. I think one of the criticisms we've had in some places where it wasn't always clear what line you were supposed to be in for here or there, especially over at the celebration stage because they had the Mando experience going on at the same time, and you'd end up in the wrong line or in this one over there, and it was a little bit confusing. But
yeah,
overall, I mean, this thing was packed. I mean, it was packed, and which I think was a great thing because it seemed like most panels were at capacity or near capacity as the convention went on. And we'll talk a little bit about our experiences since we were going up against the Lucasfilm publishing panel, or not the publishing panel, but the actual showcase, which was the biggest of the big, of course.
Right.
But it seemed like even when there were other shows that went up against a big thing, there was still a great turnout just because there were so many people and they were all looking for something to consume.
Yeah.
Which I think was a lot of fun. So the university stages and the fan stages and all of those, which are normally a bit more hit and miss, packed. And I think that says a lot to the content that people brought. And this year was totally different. Like you said, you led off with this. Totally different than some of the content that we've had in the past where we had amazing stories of representation and what it means to them and people from different countries and the cultural aspect of Star Wars and how it infuses into our personal lives and how do we treat others and in addition to just the normal really cool stuff of tabletop games and comic books and things like that.
Yeah,
it was really a well-rounded set of topics across all of these stages. You kind of had your normal fare, but then you also had these, these topics that really mean a lot to us now, and as we're trying to push some of these things forward. And I think that was a good thing, and I think they really did get a good mix of content in there, whether it was on the podcast stage or the university or fan stages. So I really thought that went pretty well. So I'm gonna pause there. There were so many other things we're going to talk about, of course, but what were kind of your initial thoughts about it?
I hate lines, and I hate queuing up in a nap for like the whole process. That was the part that, like, to your point, awesome. There was that many people. However, it just felt like this was too big for its britches. If you pardon my southern, what do you call them, idiom there. It just felt like there was too many people, like, at times, because everything was completely packed. And the way you'd get into this is you do this light speed thing, which we didn't find out till later. The instructions weren't very clear on how to queue up. But long story short is you'd queue up at 9 a.m. So long as you were in the queue prior to 9 a.m., they would throw everyone into this random.
Unless you wanted the other one, which was 8:30 a.m.
Yeah, well,
they didn't tell you. Yeah, it was confusing.
It was confusing. So then you would randomly get put in this virtual line. You had this little guy that would just kind of run. He more walked than anything else, I guess. But he'd walk across the line. I posted something on Twitter about that was my experience this weekend. But and then you would get slammed. Once you got through that virtual line, then you were able to pick. Well, by 9:15, everything had already been sold out. Like so your only option at that point was to go sit in line for some of these things. And some of these lines were at least an hour before, right? People would start lining up depending on what it was. So that in itself was kind of frustrating because we weren't able to get anything. And I'm glad everyone, I've been to Celebration and we'll get all this other information. That's fine too. But I do feel bad for people that saved all their, this is not a cheap thing to do. Right. And, I'm fortunate where I guess it wasn't too bad, but a lot of people were there for the very first time and may never go back. And I'm worried that their experience was sitting in line the whole time and never really getting to go into any of these panels, which would really stink. I think if I went to Celebration, I'd be a little bit more upset about that. But beyond that, there were lots of great costumes. The camaraderie was there. I love the fact that there were such diverse themes within all of the panels and the podcasts. For a lot of the flack that people get, or I guess we get, for being, quote, woke in Star Wars fandom, I think what they did is they brought in a lot of people who had experience, that were the subject matter experts on this stuff, got them up on stage and did a really good job of explaining just what this means, right? The cultural impacts of Star Wars, the social impacts of Star Wars, and what that really means, and take the woke out of it, take the negativity, the negative connotation of woke out of it, and really kind of explain it for what it is. So I think they did a great job in that. And then I guess the other stuff. So, the other really big highlights were the podcast meetup. Getting to meet some of our listeners there was wonderful. I got to meet Carrie Jones, who plays Black Chrysanthemum. I'll tell that story here in a little bit. And then just meeting a lot of people. I won't go through the names right now because we're already 24 minutes into this, but there were a lot of people just from like Twitter and social media that I've always interacted with over the last 3-4 years, at least, and some even longer, that I never got a chance to meet. And that in itself was just the best experience. Being able to get that face-to-face time with people, or mask to mask, as it were, was awesome. And
the people are really what you go for, because when else are you going to be able to see so many people? And again, not everybody, unfortunately, but so many people in one concentrated area. Not only just bump into them, but actually schedule time to go see them too. And message back and forth like, hey, this is where we're going to be. It'd be great to see you over there, or have the podcast meet up. And just the opportunities are there. And that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. But I guess my biggest, I wouldn't say this, and I don't want to make a big stink about this, but man, the enforcement of the masks, and I don't know how they were going to do this, to be quite honest. I had my doubts. We were allowed to take our masks off. We went on stage. So we were there, all of us, even Claudia Gray took her mask off, and we all, it was kind of a thing where you would say, hey, I'm going to take my mask off. Are you comfortable with that? And people would say, oh yeah, it's fine. Go ahead and take it off. So we take it off. But, and then the same thing, if you were posing for pictures, I would, ask, do you mind if I take a mask off for the picture? If they said yes, it was consent. But beyond that, I think for the most part, everyone did their job. There was still, though, I'm going to call it the 10%. It's not even a 1%. There was the 10% that just refused to do it. And I don't understand where this entitlement comes from. Like, you're there, you signed all the paperwork. Either put your dang mask on or get the hell out of our show. You shouldn't be here, to be honest. I'm sorry. Just how I felt about it. Because there were people there that were, had immune systems that were lowered for different reasons, which was none of their personal business. But that's why they did it. So it was very difficult to see that. In fact, I got into a shouting, I wouldn't say shouting match, but I got into it with somebody because there was one lady, I forget her name. Kudos to her. She's a Liverpool fan. We saw her. She was in the front of the line waiting for when we were trying to buy merchandise.
She was one of the staff. Yeah. That was waiting for the convention or for the store.
She was on it. Like, every time somebody walked by without a mask.
She was so courteous about it too, but she would follow up with them too.
Yeah.
No, really, you got to put your mask on.
Yeah. No, I'm not kidding. Put your mask on. And there was a guy that was going, yeah. And I finally turned, I said, put your damn mask on. And he turned around, he goes, what? I said, you heard her. She told you to put your mask on, put it on. And he goes, who the hell do you think you are? And he's just kind of walking off with his buddies or whatever. But that gets to me because it's like, I don't want to get on a soapbox here, but when you go, when you go park your car and there's that, 16-year-old kid that tells you you're going to park right here. Guess what? That's the boss. That's the person in charge. And at that moment, she was the boss. She was the one in charge. You don't get to make the rules up. Everybody has to play by the same rules. She tells you to put your mask on, you put it on. I don't care if she's 20 years younger than you. She's the boss. And that really gets under my skin. So, but beyond that, I think it was fine.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of stories now. Of course, a lot of people, I had my mask on pretty much the entire time, except where we were permitted to take it off or we were eating or something. And you still come home with this crap, and it's, again, convention crud's convention crud. It happens. It's not a new thing, of course, but also it's like, okay, there's such a huge spike now with COVID and everything else. It's like, okay, how much of this could we have, at least limited and prevented? But we expected this kind of stuff, though.
Right. There's an inherent risk every time you take your mask off. I'm not going to say, I know that. Okay. I get it.
Sure.
And there's going to be an inherent risk even with your mask on. But the point is we try to mitigate as much as possible. That's why we do these things. It's for mitigation and to keep other people safe, right? It's not about you. It's about the other people. So, all right. Enough of that too. But other than that.
The venue though. Yeah. So the venue though. So Anaheim compared to Chicago was massive. Like just from how much room there was to move around and stuff.
Yeah.
And in comparison, Anaheim did feel a bit smaller. And I think I've heard that Anaheim and Orlando are a bit similar in this regard. Anaheim might be a little bit better, where it's just everything just feels it actually feels a bit more like what we have in Houston. I think Houston's might be a touch bigger though, with our main convention center. But yeah, it did all feel a little bit more, a little more snug. But the things I did like though is that they had food trucks outside.
Oh, that was awesome! Yeah.
It was great. Your $38 lunch was fantastic.
Clarification. I had a $38 hot dog, but So, but go on, please.
Well, you had more than just a hot dog. But yeah, anyway. But again, it was really crowded out there. And so it was just the space, for that many people was still difficult to manage. But again, I think they did a fairly good job of keeping things moving. And I think once we hit day 2, and especially into day 3, I saw a lot more organization and more presence by the staff, especially managing some of the secondary stages to help people be in the right place, give them information. Hey, the line's capping, but we might, there might be room for it. That was one thing that they kind of did wrong. They said, well, go wait at the front. And they shouldn't have done. They should just let people keep queuing up.
Yeah.
That way they didn't have to worry about it and it would have been organized, because then it just turned into a blob. They figured that out finally. Yeah. So they learned a bit on the way, but. And again, the store was a bit of a disappointment, to be honest with you. When you walk in there, and we had talked about this with John and Twan, was that in Chicago, it was actually put together. It was very well organized. It was displayed nicely. And in Anaheim, it was a big room. Yeah. And it felt more like when the Super Bowl came to Houston, I compared to this, it was basically just racks of stuff out. And you just kind of dug through things, and it kind of felt like a warehouse. And that's exactly what this felt like.
Yeah. So, and the analogy I'll give to some of you savvy shoppers is if you've ever gone into a Ross and shopped.
Or Home Goods. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was okay. So there's different levels, man. Like Ross to me is kind of like the bottom of the barrel. Like you go in there.
Oh. What about like Tuesday morning? It kind of felt like
same
Tuesday
thing.
Morning,
yeah. Well, they're kind of out of business now too, but same kind of concept, right? Like Ross there's no offense to Ross, or I love you guys if you guys shop there. I shop there too. So, but it's just like, it smells terrible. Nothing's where it's supposed to be. You might find you end up looking everywhere in the store looking,
hunt and peck.
Yeah, finding, and you're like, oh wow, look at this. I didn't realize this was even here because it's in the wrong section, right? I wasn't expecting a nice shirt over by the toiletries and stuff for some reason. But yeah, it was, and like Tawan said, it was in boxes. I mean, they were literally just bringing boxes out and slamming them down, and they had the sizes small, medium, large, and so you'd be rifling through them. You were on watch half the time. We had you on watch looking for stuff as it came out for shirts that I wanted. So
right, yeah.
But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But that's the vibe I got.
No, it was. I mean, but then again, like, so right behind me, this is like, I mean, I'm so glad that we were able to get these. These are the High Republic books. They sold. It was a pretty penny, but these special edition bound and printed books for Fallen Star, Rising Storm, and Light of the Jedi, and worth every penny. But when we went in there, Albert went in there, and we went in together, and I was like, oh, they're over there. And so Albert went and picked it up, and it was literally the last one. And I was like, oh, crap. How much do I love Albert? Do I want to beat him up?
Right.
And so thankfully I just kind of was patient because we knew that they were only limiting one per person. And then we also knew that they were limiting per day. And this was day 2, right?
Yeah.
Because we knew that we were going to have a hard time getting back in there. And thankfully, there was another one with one strat. One was a stray over here, and they ended up bringing a couple more out. And so I was able to get one. But after that, they pretty much disappeared. I mean, getting them, and now online, they're selling for about 80 to 100% markup than what they were already, which of course isn't surprising. We'll talk about markups here in a minute, but but it was a store left little to be desired, but they did have really cool merchandise this year. I will say that though, I was really pleased with the type of merchandise, and you had to really make some hard choices. Of course, you just decided to buy the entire store.
I bought everything. Yeah, I think I spent $800 there, and then I went and spent another $400 over at Downtown Disney. Yeah. So yeah, this is it wasn't a cheap, and that's just our merchandise. But those books. So I'm going to do an unboxing of those. I think tomorrow night. I was going to try to do it tonight. We'll see. It depends on how tired I am.
Yeah, folks, you are not going to want to miss that when he posts that, because these books are absolutely worth every penny, and they are amazing. They really did a great job on these. I don't want to spoil it, but when Albert posts that, please go watch it, because they are really finely crafted and really well done. They oh man, yeah, they are amazing books. I really cannot speak more highly than what they produced this time around. They're really nice.
By the way, I've got four things in front of me that I bought. One is the Celebration key art shirt, as you can see here.
You're just all
yeah, I was like, I'm all decked out. And then I got this thing on. I actually took my bracelet off, the health bracelet, because I thought that was kind of weird and probably,
I did too.
Probably gross with all the bacteria on it. This was like one of 2 things they had at Downtown Disney with the Andor logo. It says limited release. I don't know what that means. It's a pin. I don't collect pins, but man, boy, do I have a lot of pins after coming back from Celebration. So yeah, this was like $20 for this pin. Where's my gonk droid? I was going to show you.
It's limited.
Well, it is limited, I guess.
It's about the size of a gonk droid.
About the size of a gonk droid, as you can see there in the camera. But I got an Andor pin. I didn't like the shirt they had for Andor. Honestly, it was not really my style. It's kind of a football jersey kind of thing, or workout jersey. But I had that. And then I also got this. When we were there, they were unboxing these, and they were limiting 2 sets per person per day.
So these are for those listening, this is the Been There series from Starbucks with the mugs, and they hadn't had these in stock for, what did she tell you?
I don't know.
Weeks.
It's been weeks, if not months, is what she said.
So we just happened to be there at the right time. So I picked up a Navarro, and he's showing off his Octu one.
Yep.
And these are really cool. And what was the other one that they had at the time?
It was Naboo was the other one.
Naboo, yeah.
Yeah. So, but that was cool too. So that's just a little bit. I think over time, we'll probably share more, especially on the Patreon. When we get to our Patreon episode, when we do our show and tell, I'm bringing everything out.
It's just going to be a show and tell episode.
Oh, the whole thing. The whole thing.
But you know what, Albert? We got a lot of content while we were there too.
Yep.
A lot of content.
Quickly, sorry, but you know what else we got a lot of? We have a lot of buttons. So the buttons that we were going to hand out.
There's an epic saga of Cantina Cast swag that did not make it to
look at this. I have 3 bags of Anaheim buttons now that I have no idea what to do with these things. So I don't know. Maybe we'll mail them out to Patreon members or something, I don't know when we're going to have our next meetup. And I still have the stickers coming. I can have like 200 stickers that are coming still on the way. They're like 1-inch stickers. They're not like the small ones. They're like the decent sized stickers. And that package is lost right now. So none of this came in time. There was a couple of problems with UPS shipping, and apparently, obviously there's still a problem with UPS shipping, but we've got swag still to come. Okay, but you were saying we're going to get into all this stuff. And for the way we're going to do is we're going to go day by day, talk about the things that were announced and some of our own personal experiences with them or what we felt about them. But these are going to be very high level initial kind of thoughts. We've got a number of these. Essentially, if it was a trailer that was released, we're going to break the trailer down. And we know we've got Kenobi's episodes, part 1, 2, and then tonight we've got part 3 coming out. So we got to get on those pretty quickly because we're going to get caught, with our pants down. I hate that expression, but if we don't, we'll be playing catch up on that. But we've got, I don't know, like at least 6 or 7 episodes in the
catch up.
Yeah, we really are. 6 or 7 episodes in the can, or at least planned at some point here very soon. So we may just power through some of this here this week, depending on your health. Hopefully you can make it.
Yeah.
But
so again, what we'll do tonight though is we'll kind of touch on them. We'll give our brief kind of thoughts on it, and any kind of major things of note that we caught from it, or any kind of the experience that we had, more of the celebration side of things rather than digging into the content side of it. But yeah, please do stay tuned. Between the general release feed and Patreon, we're going to get to all of it. We promise.
All right. Well, let's talk about day one.
Day one.
And it kicked off with us getting there, which was really cool.
Really kicked off with us doing the podcast stage. Let's just be honest. That's how the celebration started for everyone. Even if you were in the showcase, they're like, you know what? Damn it, we're missing the Cantina Cash right now for this.
Yep. We had a good crowd. I think all things considered, we actually had a pretty decent crowd. So thank you for everybody that came out. We did a Q&A at the very end, where we had people ask questions to Claudia Gray, which was really great. She was phenomenal. I mean, we can't thank her enough. I'm sure she's listening to this or watching the show, but
she signed a couple autographs.
Yeah.
Adam Christopher was in the audience. That was exciting.
Yeah. He got the chance to watch that. And we talked to him quite extensively about his book.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
But Shadow of the Sith, which is coming out soon. But yeah, so thanks for everybody that came out to the show. Thank you for Claudia Gray to being a part of it, and thanks to our friends over at Tarkin Stop Shelf for being there as well. Mark and Becca did an awesome job, and we had a really good time.
Sarah, and of course we have to thank Sarah, her right hand woman, and publicist and dear friend, and everything that helped to organize and keep everything on schedule and having her where she was needed to be. Her being Claudia, she was an absolute joy, and thank you so much for helping make this all happen.
We got a chance to do a little before the show. We just talking with her, and I think we ended up talking more about Star Trek than Star Wars. But that's
recording. It was basically all Star Trek. Yeah,
but expected. I mean, she's a huge Star Trek fan, so
yeah. Well, apparently the new series is off the chain, really good. So that is something that I will try to edit this weekend, and we'll get that turned out. So we will get that on the feed as soon as possible. As you might imagine, the dynamics have to be corrected a bit, so it's going to take a little bit of time to edit that. So I'll try to get that this weekend so everyone can enjoy a really good discussion, I thought. Again, we talked about the firebrands of the High Republic and kind of where they went, and getting Claudia Gray's insight into them, is fantastic. And getting to talk to her a little bit beforehand was really cool too, because she's like, I've actually not written Avar Chris at all. Because I was giving her a bit of a briefing about, hey, here's kind of what I'd expect to bring you in on, and then we just decided everyone to kind of give that little lead in. So she wasn't working right off the top of her head and on the spot. Although she's very good at that, even though she doesn't think she is, she's really, really good at it. And she's just such a natural speaker. But it was really interesting getting that type of insight. But she was so engaging and really accommodating for all of us, really pleasant and engaged with the listeners and then those who participated in the stage, and just so gracious to Claudia Gray, and really hoping to do more with her in the future.
Yeah.
And a huge shout out to Mark Newbold and the guys who were helping set up the audio too for us, by the way.
Yep. Yeah, that was no small feat or challenge to get all that going and running. So
especially as the first one. Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. So in parallel, while we were doing our show, we had the big Lucasfilm Studio Showcase, and this is where the majority of the people went. They had the celebration stage open, and then they opened up 2 of the other stages to stream it. So it was standing room only, full capacity, and this is one of the ones I think they did stream down on that live stage. Where is it? Down on the exhibit floor as well.
The celebration.
Yeah, celebration live stage. So they did that as well. But I guess, there's just quite a bit of announcements here. We got the Mando season 3. We know that's coming February of 2023.
Yeah, a little later than we expected, but again, makes sense when we start to build out everything else we've got in the timeline here.
Yeah, exactly. And we will break this one down. The footage is not out there legally. There's I have it illegally. There you can still get it out there. I mean, there are sites
No,
that
you
have
have a fan cam of it. Yeah, they did not allow video recording devices of any type, and they only limited these to the main stage. They did not do it on the other stages, so they blacked those out.
They blocked them out. Yeah. But yeah, we'll break that down and kind of talk about it. There's some interesting tidbits there of what's going on. Some great confirmations on stuff that we speculated on as far as where the series would go in season 3. And I think the biggest surprise, not that it's a spoiler, but I think we got confirmation that Babu Freak is going to be in this one. So
along with some friends,
yeah, along with other friends as well. So looking forward to that. Anything else you want to touch on about Mandalorian? What did you think about it? Like, have you seen it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I've just seen the shaky cam, the fan cam version like everyone else. I'm still trying to find a much better version of it that doesn't get cut off halfway, and like especially when the Siege of Mandalore stuff or when Return to Mandalore.
Man, I have scoured to the end of the internet looking for a better version. I've not found anything, so that's just the version we're gonna have to go off of. So.
Yeah, so I'm curious if this is going to be this might be more of a Disney Plus Day type of release. And I was really critical of the sizzle that they gave at Disney Plus Day last time was things from a year previous. This would at least make sense if they released this one for Mandalorian. And so I'm hoping that we will get a much better view of all of this here just in a few months. But no, yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I mean, going back to Mandalore makes sense. We knew that Din Djarin was going to want to reclaim his name, and so that makes I'm excited that we're going to do this, and we're going to bring in some other characters, and again, continue to tie some stuff in here. See where it takes us.
We had the a big surprise, I think, was announced as well. So we knew we assumed that they would show they were going to talk about Kenobi, and what I don't think we were anticipating, although I think everybody was hoping, is that they would do a watch party. Right? I mean, it made sense. Right. We're on the cusp of these 2 episodes releasing. Everybody was well aware of it, but then they pulled a audible, or maybe this was by intent. There was intent here, but. They decided anybody that got into the main stage to watch the Kenobi or to watch this Lucasfilm Studio showcase, you got a special wristband. You got a gold wristband, which meant you could come back later that night at 7 p.m. I think they started lining up about 5:30 p.m. At 7 p.m. and you got to watch both of the episodes live with Favreau and Filoni and everyone else. There was a couple other people there, and then you got a special Q&A that was done afterwards. On top of that, if you were in line, you got what I thought was the coolest stuff. You got a black and gold box or can of Pringles, and they're handing out the black Frosted Flake boxes of Frosted Flakes that had the Kenobi logos on them too. So, and those were going for $400 or $500 on eBay that night. But this kind of threw a wrench in a lot of plans because I mean, you think about the podcaster meetup that we're going to talk about in just a little bit. That was that same night at the same time, and suddenly, well. Let's just say a lot of people didn't show up to that initially until a little bit later, until after those were done. So Jonesy and I, unfortunately, we didn't get into that main stage. We did not get to see this with the Q&A, but kudos to everybody that got it. That's awesome.
Well, and yeah, shout out to Dan Zare on this one because Dan, of course, was the host for the podcaster party that night.
Yeah.
And of course, he had every opportunity to go watch this, but he still showed up for the podcaster party instead of the other one. To where he hadn't even seen the trailer even the next morning because when he went back, he was just so wiped out. And but yeah, and then they released it early. I mean, for everybody else, which I think made a lot of sense because they got to watch it live there, and then they were going to come back and start spoiling it for everyone else.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Might as well open it up. But go back to the stage though for the 11 a.m. I think one of the really cool things. I think this is one of the things that the people who were in the room will take this to their grave. Was that it was John Williams' 90th birthday, and they actually they opened the curtain or everything and they had an orchestra out there, and then they invited John Williams to come out and actually perform live the Obi-Wan Kenobi theme music. So it was officially the first time it had been heard anywhere outside of the walls of Lucasfilm, and because it was before of course the episode wouldn't come until later that evening, and so it was really cool that they got to experience that. And then they decide to go ahead and just roll into some Indiana Jones, and Harrison Ford of all people comes out, and they do a little, because again, it was the Lucasfilm, showcase, studio showcase. So they had a little graphic there of Indiana Jones, which is going to be released next year. And, Harrison Ford came out, and then they of course do a little Imperial March to wrap it up there. But I mean, that just had to have been so magical for some people because again, we know that we're not going to have many more opportunities to see John Williams live. I mean, he's just older and he doesn't travel as much as he used to, and he's still working. Seems like harder than ever, but it just those are just magical moments. I think those are the things that can really make a celebration worth it. If nothing else happens, you're like, man, I got to see the maestro himself conduct Star Wars and Indiana Jones, in the same hall, along with all these other wickedly cool things that happen. But that was I think when I look back about the most disappointing thing, I think that was probably the one thing. Like seeing the premiere and everything would have been great, but not being able to see John Williams, I think that's the one I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yep.
that would have been just so magical and so epic. I mean, you and I are just such huge John Williams fans of everything he's done, his entire catalog, not just Indy and Star Wars. His library is just incredible and one of the greatest composers and writers in our generation, well before our generation.
Yeah, no, he's definitely he's the in my opinion, he's the greatest composer of our generation. Period. Not just soundtracks.
Composer. There we go. How did I not remember the word composer?
Yeah, I mean, just more than movies. I mean, yeah, movies. Of course, he does the soundtracks, but if you just look at the pieces that he's done, you put that up against anything else that people have been dishing out here over the last, 40, 50 years. I'm sorry, he's the tops. So we're just very fortunate to get it as movies. So, but yeah, that's, I can't even I was getting choked up just thinking about being in an audience with John Williams there playing the very first couple of parts to the main Raiders of the Lost Ark Indiana Jones theme song. It's so iconic, and then to have Harrison Ford walk out, and then they stopped, and he made that comment about, this music's followed me my entire career, and I forget what he said afterwards, but something to the extent of, and I couldn't be happier, right? Like he's just so thankful that's his song, if you will.
Oh, I thought he made a joke about his colonoscopy as well.
No, nothing like that. No flying planes into ditches or anything like that, or into fields jokes. But yeah, that would have been just, phenomenal to have experience. So that's awesome that some people did get that. And we knew people that attended that. So good for them. I'm happy for them. Okay. So anything else before we get to Andor? Because Andor is one of...
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Andor, yeah.
Finally got the trailer. This is one that we are going to break down, and I would say for the most part, I would say that it definitely met my expectations. There's a story there that I'm liking. I wasn't sure where it's going to go just yet, but I do, based on what I'm theorizing so far. Right, they didn't give us a whole lot of concrete details, but just high level, I would say I enjoyed it. August 31st is the official day when we'll get that, and we are going to get 2 episodes, so it's going to be very similar to Kenobi, where we get the first 2 out of the gate. We got the trailer. We got, there were some posters that were being handed out. Thanks to Jonesy, I have a poster. I don't know where he got it. He said he mugged somebody or beat some small child up. I forget what it was, but he got a poster.
I have my connections. It's all right.
Yeah.
You don't need to ask too many questions.
Yeah, I won't.
Your blood poster is in your
blood. Yeah, I got blood on my hands now, as we both do. But I have that poster, and I'll show it during show and tell. But it's a kind of a... It looks like a very, I'm going to say, propaganda poster, if you will, in that style, right? Propaganda posters, political propaganda posters, but it's got Andor's face on it. So Diego Luna's face is on there, which is, oh man, I can't tell you how excited I am for that movie, and more on that when we talk about Andor. But what did you think, just high level?
Well, I mean, yeah. And again, folks, when you talk about what are the magical things that happen at Celebration that you could never plan for or expect, it's the things in between. Albert and I are on the escalator going up, and he's talking to me about his father and calling him about Andor, and that they're, and we talk about representation and stuff, and hearing small stories like that of how much this means to people, is something I shared. But I was like, this is something I have a difficult time understanding, or not understanding, but just feeling and interpreting, because I've seen my type of people on screen my entire life, and to have that come to the screen now is so powerful, and to get to experience that with folks like Albert, and hear about family members who have the same type of thing. And so I get emotional just thinking about it, because it's just such a powerful thing. And I get so happy just that the amount of joy and that it brings into their lives too, is as we kind of push the boundaries forward here of where we need to be.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I appreciate that. I will share more when we get to the Andor breakdown. And I don't know, I may do something as a solo show, just kind of talking about this journey, I think, for me and what it means to me, because I've been kind of quiet about it. I've shared it, I think, on this show before, and of course I've shared it with Jonesy, but just the significance of what Cassian Andor means to me, as of someone of Mexican descent, and having Diego Luna there and representing that and all that. So there's I'll make it worth your time. I hope so. So okay, and then we got the Skeleton Crew, which was Grammar Rodeo. That was announced.
Was not expecting this one.
No.
Great that we had next to no information about it.
2023 is the year. That could be January, it could be December. I'm gonna guess
this is a series, right?
Yeah, series. I'm guessing I'm gonna guess mid, right? Sometime after. Well, I'm not even gonna try to guess just yet. But starring Jude Law, and we know Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are involved. It's going to take place during the Mandoverse era of time. So in that little toy box, they've got all their stuff in there. A lot of speculations going around who Jude Law is playing. I've heard everything from Thrawn to I don't even remember the other people really. Thrawn's the one that stuck out in my head, but there's a lot of speculation as to who he's going to play. But this is that coming of age story where we're going to have these young kids who presumably are going to be called the Skeleton Crew, if you will. That are going to have to, the call to action is made and they step up. So in the vein of like Stranger Things or any of the Spielberg 80s kids movies like E.T. or Stand By Me, and that's not a Spielberg movie, but Stand By Me, something along those lines. So this is that we had mentioned. I don't know. There's really not a lot else there. They showed the logo, which cool. Looks cool. It looks like it reminds me of something that you'd see like at Galaxy's Edge, but that's not criticism. It just there's a theme there that they're going with the logo, I guess, if you will. So, okay, so that's the Lucasfilm Studio Showcase day one. Then we went into, oh my gosh, we had the High Republic, High Republic show for Light and Life. So this was a live High Republic show. Anybody in this that contributes here, including Mark Thompson. They had what's her name, Kristen Baver was there as well. Yeah. They brought her out because she's got a book coming out, which is The Art of the High Republic. Oh yeah, Kristen Ariel was hosting it. All of the writers, and man, talk about information overload. We've got a lot to cover here, but they gave us a list of books and showed us all kinds of covers, and I couldn't even keep up. I was just drooling the entire time. What were your thoughts? I know you were real quiet.
Yeah, well, I was just trying to
take it all in,
digest it all. Yeah. Again, it was. You know what was really fun to see was just the overwhelming love and support and the rep. Like how many people were repping the High Republic all weekend.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, seriously, hardcore repping the High Republic all weekend. And it was so cool to see it that so many people have, because sometimes I feel like we're on a bit of an island with High Republic.
Yeah, echo chamber, right?
Right, yeah, because I mean, we know some people who are really into it. Of course, our friends over at Target's Top Shelf and some other places too. But the books don't always feel like they get all the love. But oh my goodness, like there is a lot of love for High Republic.
A lot of cosplays too.
Tons of cosplay. Oh my goodness, and they were so good too. Some were so. Even Mark Thompson came out in his Jedi robes, like you were saying. And but man, yeah, lots of great. And they didn't give us a lot of information about Phase 2. Phase 2 about what we're going to get specifically.
Right.
They gave us a little bit, I think, on some of the comic books projections I was pretty interested about, but we did get titles for everything. They've started to move the release dates around a little bit here just in the last day or so. So some that are, we should start to see some things come out this fall, I believe in October. And then, but there have been some schedule shifts already. Actually, we might get some as early as July, I think now.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, we'll kind of put all that together there. But I think one of the things I was most excited for, though, and you and I love these books, and the art of the High Republic is going to be coming out. I think Kristen Baver is the one who's putting that together.
Yep.
And oh my goodness, like some of the artwork that they showed. I mean, we've seen some of it before, but man, there's so many design elements and everything else in there, and it's just going to be an amazing book to have and add to the collection because it's just absolutely stunning. And but I mean, again, some of the books names we already had in the past. But there were a couple of curious ones like Quest for Planet X. What does that quite mean? But they really put a lot of emphasis on Path of Vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they put a lot of, or no, Path of Deceit. Was the
Deceit,
one that they,
right?
yeah, Path of Deceit. They put a lot of emphasis on that. It could be the best High Republic book to date, and they were all like nodding in complete agreement
That it was, yeah.
that it was. It was, and it was the one of the most important, as well as just one of the best Star Wars books. Period.
Was that's
And
the like Justina Ireland and the new
Teresa Grattan, I
Teresa
think,
Graff,
yeah, which is again an insane amount of praise, for especially with the Teresa Grattan is not a first time writer, but for kind of coming into the High Republic era, and just knocking it out of the park like that is just really promising. So again, we know we're going back in time. We know that we're starting to get a lot of excitement, for these books. The comics also had some really cool things. We got more information about the Blade, which is its own little series for Porter Engle, because we know Phase 2 is going to really focus on Porter Engle. But we also got High Republic Adventures, The Nameless Terror, which again, all signs are pointing back to, what the hell did the Jedi do with the Nameless? And what was really, really cool was that we got a visual. I took pictures of it, but we actually got to see the Nameless, and then we got to see a picture of the Leveler, which just blew our minds. We were like, holy crap!
Yeah.
Like to think of them as two individual things, it just never really occurred to me, in that kind of stark contrast. And we left there, and we were just talking through all the different scenarios of what we could figure out. I mean,
in true Cantina Cast form, we were theorizing as we were literally walking out about how they could, what the two differences were, how one could be the other, one could become the other, that sort of thing.
Right. And then how's it play into the prophecy, right? The sins of the past. And we think we have a working theory on all of that stuff, which is probably pretty similar to where we were going in the past anyway. But man, we're starting to get we're starting to get some more clarity and focus around that. So the comics start up in this fall with the High Republic for both the Dark Horse side of it as well as the Marvel side. But it was a really cool panel. I mean, all of the speakers were fantastic.
Yeah, it was great to hear all of them, and just you can tell they like each other. They get along very well. They're all happy with the experience that they've gone through. They're looking forward to Phase 2, and it's very clear too. And when we were talking to Claudia Gray, even on our panel, and I don't know if this was official. It was prior to we went on. They definitely have all the big major points planned out all the way through Phase 3. She did confirm that, right? What they don't have exactly is like who's going to write who, or some of the inner stories that's going to happen in there. They're leaving that up to these writers to kind of play around with and give them some freedom to do so. So that sounds pretty exciting. That we're nothing is set in stone yet, but we at least have the main plot points. The last thing I'll say, because I don't want to spoil everything, because I want to talk about this, is the Jedha factor, right? We know now, they confirmed this a couple times this weekend, that Jedha is going to play a very, very vital, important role in Phase 2. One of the books being The Battle of Jedha. I think that was the audio book.
It's an audio drama. George Mann scripting that one.
So, but on top of that, there are other, there's other books, and so it's there's just the fact that we're going to go back to Jedha is great, because it was covered in the Cataclysm and Rebel Rising. There were some mentions in there. Of course, we had Rogue One. There was the Baze and Chirrut book that came out that was mentioned there as well. But it sounds like we're going to get something a little bit more substantial, and that planet's going to play a pivotal role, which I think is going to really do a lot for what it means when it's blown up in Rogue One. I think it's going to recontextualize that scene, which I'm excited for, because I think it's one of these planets that that's got a lot of mystery to it, and being able to pull that curtain back is going to be kind of cool.
And apparently it's a very different Jedha than what we have experienced before too. Yeah. It's got a lot more religions to it. It's more of a cornucopia of things. And so I think it's going to really enhance the lore is what I'm really looking forward to. And that is an audio drama. I'm sure had a bit of a mixed reaction for you in this kind of way, but if anything's clear, we've been getting the books at some point later on that we can go and reread as well. But really looking forward to that one, though.
If they would just release
that was one of the more interesting ones I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. Now, I'd be fine if they would release the book at the same time as the audio drama, but I understand why they don't do that. The one thing they mentioned that they were talking about just in general the success of the High Republic and how they said, going to lead to other mediums. And
Yep.
and we got one of them this weekend. We'll talk about that here, animated shows. But it did sound like there was more. They said there are some that are in the works, that they're just in the works. So the High Republic's here to stay. It sounds like we're going to get even more stuff from that, whether it's animation, live action. We don't know just yet, but given the success of it, they definitely are kind of all set to do all that. So I can't expect.
So if you are on the fence, we're telling you now. Now's the time to start. Go back and start listening to all the other Cantina Cast episodes where we broke it down over the course of like 9,000 hours. It's still faster than reading the books.
Yeah.
Although we highly encourage you to go read the books.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, like now's the time to jump in because it really does feel like by the end of this year and into the middle of next year, it is going to really be picking up the pace, and we're going to have more content outside of the books here within the next 12 to 16 months, something like that.
Yeah. There was the Mando experience, which I did not get to partake in, and
but man, we heard so many amazing things about it, though.
yeah, it was. If you watch, there's a good recap of it. If you go watch the celebration live on YouTube, they brought out Jon Favreau, and they were talking about, and really what it was is they brought all the costumes and props from the Mandalorian. These are the real deal. This isn't like pieces that were made to represent those. These are the actual props. They brought them down. They put them in this kind of imagine like going into a museum exhibit and walking around and being able to see all that stuff.
If anyone remembers the old Magic of Myth, the exhibit that traveled around the U.S., do you remember that back in the?
No,
that had to have been in the 90s or early 2000s or something like that. It was fantastic. Like they literally had all the props there. They had the original Death Star was rebuilt. The costumes. Wow. It very much reminded me of that, along with like an audio script that you could listen to. I think it was James Earl Jones narrated it.
Wow! But okay,
it was epic. Yeah, they had come to Houston. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah,
but it reminded me very much of that.
So, but yeah, so you could do that. You could walk around. You got to wait in line for that, of course. I think the interesting thing was when they were talking about it. I think this is back at the Disney Showcase show, or I forget what it was, a Lucasfilm Showcase show. But Favreau had mentioned that he really wanted to have this for the people. And the story goes that he helped pay out of his own pocket to get all that stuff set up and delivered there for that experience. So unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to go to it, but anybody that went just talked about how amazing it was. So,
well, one of the more comical moments about it is that they were strictly enforcing the distance policy because they might want to use this stuff again. So they would not let people any closer than a certain amount of space between them and the props. But apparently they brought out, I mean, they really did. They came out hard with it. And again, that was one of the other disappointing things when you have a chance to go and kind of experience that. And thankfully I've had it in other areas with the other experiences in the past, but man, that's something that I really hope when Mandalorian wraps up or something like that, they do a traveling exhibit of Star Wars again, because I think they're just so amazing. And we've had so much other content now to enhance just beyond the original trilogy or the prequels. And we have so much extra stuff now that would be really cool to do a really monster scale traveling exhibit like that.
Yeah. Maybe they'll do it again. Who knows? Okay. Let's just wrap it up with, I guess, some of the more other notable shows. Dan Zier I heard a lot of good things from his mythology one. He was kind of talking about the mythology behind Star Wars. And of course, he's an educator. This is kind of well within his wheelhouse to speak to. Right. But there was the Ahsoka Tano panel. So Mark, or excuse me, Becca, and Idiots Array, and a number of other people got on stage to talk about that and just that impact. That was a really cool. If you see the pictures that are out there, it's just basically an audience of people that are dressed in blue and orange and white gear. If not looking like Ahsoka Tano, they had merchandise and shirts and everything on. There was a crash course on the Old Republic that we tried to get out to, but that was full, so we didn't make it into that. I don't know that I needed that, but I more than anything, I want to see who was presenting. You
just wanted to rep Old Republic, though.
Yeah, well, I wanted to hand out some of the swag that I had.
That's true.
To give away, because we were lugging that 10-pound bag of, I was anyways, all day.
Yeah, thankfully I saw Swarterista that one day. I was like, hey, go
go talk to her. Right. She ended up unloading all that stuff for me. So more on that when we get to a little bit later.
She came through.
And then the podcast meetup, which was really cool. Like I said, it was pretty light because a lot of folks were at the 7 p.m. showings for Obi-Wan Kenobi. But we met a lot of great people there. A lot of people that we had seen again in person, or seen in on social media or spoken to. I've met one of the ladies who made one of my pins. She makes if you go to Spark of Hope on Instagram, she makes these really great pins, and it's that big Avar Chris pin. She was there, and I saw her. I tackled her, and I think she thought it was weird, but I got a picture with her because I just love that pin so much.
Oh, she was ecstatic. Yeah, we found her with the pink hair.
Yeah, pretty easy to find. We got to meet. So Dan Zier was there. Lacey from Resistance Broadcast. The brothers were out at the show, so she was kind of there by herself.
I'm glad we did bump into her, because then she told us that they were doing a live podcast, another couple nights later. So
Saturday,
it was really cool to be able to have the opportunity. Made some new friends there too, right?
Yeah. No, shout out to the Manx, as I call them. Met this two gentlemen by the name of Daz and Dave. And it's so funny because they're from the UK. I think Daz is Welsh and Dave is from Manchester. So I'm not going to hold that against them, but they were there, and they were kind of sitting there, and they're like, "Oh, we came out here, we support Dan Zier or whatever." And Dan was out. He was out kind of roaming around. I said, "Well, hold on one second. Let me go get him out." I literally dragged Dan over. I'm like, "Dude, you got to come over here. These two guys are here to see you. They're from the UK." And he was like, "Oh yeah, man, for sure." So he went over there, and they got connected, and he took them over kind of where they were at. So they got to hang out with him for a little bit. Well, made a lot of good friends in that manner, which was awesome. There, shout out also to the Swick brothers. They're not really brothers, but Tim and Chris were there from Star Wars in Character, one of the few podcasts that I still listen to. But I got a chance to see them. And that's what took. I don't know if you noticed, I was gone forever. It's because I ran into them, and then we started taking pictures and talking about stuff. They gave me some swag, and then Mark
Swick is a Star Wars in Character, by the way, for those who may not know.
Yeah, and then Mark Newbold came over, and then they were talking because Mark had been on the show at one point, and then that's what it's really about, right? It's just that whole networking experience and being able to talk to your fellow creators and the fans and the supporters that are there for all these different shows, which was just awesome.
And shout out to Greg over at Rebel Base Guard too. He came out for the podcast stage, as well as actually he has. So there is a first impressions audio out there of us on Andor, because so at the podcast stage we got done. And then they told us the Andor trailer dropped. So we're watching it on my phone, and we're just kind of stunned watching it. It ends, and all of a sudden Greg's right there with his phone and his little microphone on it.
Yeah.
So we're just we're here at the podcast stage, and Albert and Jonesy have just watched the Andor trailer for the very first time. We're going to get some first impressions. We're like, okay.
Yeah.
So we gave our literally the most raw first impressions. I did check his feed though, and has not published it quite yet. But yeah, huge shout out to Greg. He is such a cool guy. And we got to see him at the podcast meetup a little later on, and we bumped into him a couple more times. But he's been a huge supporter of our show as well. So give him a shout as well. Rebel Base Card.
Yeah. Rebel Base Card, all things card collecting. But he has other people on the show as well to give their perspectives. But yeah, he was there Saturday. I think I spent most of my day because it was the day you weren't feeling well, but I just stayed at the podcast stage, and he was there right with me the entire time. I think that's where he stood out most of the time, was just hanging out and watching all the shows and supporting all the different shows. So he's a huge fan of a number of shows, but man, just a great supporter of all of these as well.
So day one, we tried to wrap up and go back to the room and watch Kenobi, and we did. And actually, Albert set up his camera. He's like, "Oh, we're gonna record our impressions," with John and Tuam as well. And unfortunately, man, we were just so wiped out that people started fading a little bit, and it was definitely not due to the show. And we were doing pretty all right through most of the first episode, but then it got real quiet after a little while.
Okay, you can. People weren't fading. I fell asleep. I
was trying to be nice. I didn't want to say you fell asleep.
We went to Cheesecake Factory first, right? And we were like, "Oh, we'll get some cheesecake." And I bought a Diet Pepsi. And I thought, okay, this will. And of course,
Albert had bought a tube of Oreos and a milk too, so that he had cookies to watch this thing.
Cookies and milk,
which I think were left actually.
Oh yeah, I never brought I forgot my cookies and the milk. I think I never even opened them. But I had this idea, okay, we'll set a camera up, and we'll do live reaction. We'll release it on Patreon, and I don't know. I got through the first episode, but I don't remember much about the end of the first episode. And by the second episode, I couldn't even tell you what it was about. I remember waking up at one point, and these guys were like, "Oh wow!" And then I saw another part, and then next thing, though, credits are rolling. I thought, well, I'm not releasing that on Patreon unless anybody wants to see me, snogging there live on the camera, drooling on the camera. So we may just
literally
edit
head
that
on my shoulder, drooling.
No, it was not. Knock it off. We may do like the highlights, which means the parts where Albert's not sleeping. How about that? We'll release that for anybody that's interested. So
yeah, but in Albert's defense, I mean, so the night before we had got in and we were up until, I don't think we went to bed until 2 or something like that, which is 4 a.m. our time, and then we got up early that next morning because that's what we do, and we went just straight through. I mean, we really didn't have a lot of time to rest the entire weekend, so it was excuse. I give you a pass there.
Thank you.
You weren't the only one to say that they were exhausted every single day.
No, I know it was
everyone I bumped into were like, we're just so tired, but we're gonna keep doing it.
Well, let's get into day 2. I know that was only day 1, but don't worry. Like most of this other stuff is pretty quick.
It shortens up.
Yeah, it shortens up a little bit lighter. They hit us with a lot of stuff on that first Thursday. We've talked about our experience already with the Celebration store. I don't think we need to touch on that anymore. Long lines, spent a lot of money. Young Jedi Adventures is the one. So this is during the High Republic era. This is going to be a show about younglings. It sounds like it's in the vein of some of the stuff they do today on Disney Junior, where they're all about positivity and reinforcing good messages. So this is aimed at like preschoolers and elementary school kids. Okay, so let's make that very clear. So, but it is going to be on Disney Junior. So that's, a service that you pay for as part of cable television, or if you have Disney Plus, you'll get it on Disney Plus. Spring of 2023 is all they gave us on that one. And even the logo looks like a very kiddish kind of preschool logo. So
it's very much in the vein of, if you've been on the Star Wars Kids channel on YouTube, for that, it feels very much in that same, kind of a stylistic approach. Yeah.
And I would guess that Buryaga is going to be in it, right? If you think about the really young kid books that they've released.
There were so many questions and so much love for Burry.
Yeah. But I can see him being somebody that transitions. If he's not leading as a Padawan, or if it's not about him and other Padawans, then he's got to be in it. I mean, he is kind of the face of those really young kid books, right? So let's see. They did the Lucasfilm Publishing Behind the Page, which I don't know. We were in there 10 minutes, I think, total. Yeah. It's like one of the ones that we got into. Yeah. And suddenly the fire alarm goes off, and everybody, you'll never forget the time the fire alarm went off at Celebration. Like everybody's talking about, where were you at? Oh, I was over here, or I was at this panel. I never even heard it. I heard people tell me that.
So actually the funny thing is most of the convention center did not have the fire alarm go off. It was literally just in our area of the second floor.
Yeah. So it goes off like Michael Singlane's up there, Kevin Scott's up there. What's her name? Delilah Dawson.
Yeah.
A number of people, other like E.K. Johnson's up there as well. And they had a full panel and they were just talking about Star Wars books in general. And then the fire alarm goes off. And so everybody's kind of stopping, looking around. I'm thinking, okay, is this a drill? Is it like part of the show?
Expected to hear some sort of announcement.
Well, yeah. Nope. And then so the lights came on there, and so everybody got up and walked out. And then I did this really creepy stalker thing where we were walking out, and I happened to look behind me, and there's this like menacing of a man, super tall guy behind us. It just happened to be Kevin Scott, and he was way back there. I told Jonesy, I was like, Jonesy, let's slow down. That way, he'll catch up and we can talk to him as we're going out.
As we're leaving in an emergency, Albert, who was telling everyone to get the hell out, is now saying, well, let me slow down, but I'm still going towards the exit.
Yep. So we slowed down, and then sure enough, he finally caught up, and I was like, oh, what a coincidence. Kevin Scott, how are you? Yeah, and I introduced myself.
Albert from the KOT guys.
Yeah. So. But that was it. We just chit chat.
But those are the stories and the memories we'll take with us, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, those are the ones that, how do you get to walk out during a fire emergency with Kevin Scott?
Right.
Yeah.
And then
you had to slow down to a crawl to be able to catch up with.
But I did it. Yeah. So that was cool. That was about that panel was fine. It was just really kind of talking about all the books that were coming out. I'm trying to remember now. That seems cool. It's so discombobulated now because of. But all credit to everybody there. They jumped right back into it and kept on going like nothing happened, and they finished on time. So that was awesome.
It really, it wasn't that bad of a delay either. I thought it was going to cradle the whole thing.
Yeah. Let's see. They did the Attack of the Clones 20th anniversary. I have the hat, but that's about all I know. I didn't get to go to the panel. Didn't see anything on it. I heard it was awesome. I heard there was a lot of insight stuff, but there were no like major reveals or announcements of any sort. So.
Right.
Let's see, and then we got another panel we didn't go to, but the Star Wars Jedi Survivor, so the sequel to Fallen Order, which all I know is it's 5 years after, I think is what they officially confirmed, and coming to next generation systems only. They included a video, which if you've not had a chance to see, it looks really cool, but it's just I don't know, no context.
Very much a teaser. Yeah, it's very much a teaser.
The big question is, who is the Jedi in the tank?
Exactly.
Who is that? I'm not really sure just yet. Let's see, and then kind of wrap up day 2. Other notable shows, the one we were talking about. So redrawing the boundaries of inclusion through photography and fashion. So this is Reina Santos and Issa. What's Issa's last name now? Figueroa. Yeah. They put on a show that was really about body positivity and being inclusive of all types, regardless of who you are. But really, Reina's thing is she's a professional photographer. She's a professional writer. She's credited in New York Times, has done a number of things, but she goes around to Star Wars Celebration and she takes pictures of people that aren't thin, right? People are of plus sizes or of larger sizes, and photographs them on these very intentionally very plain backgrounds, like two white pillars and nothing else. And there's no context around. Doesn't say celebration. She's not looking for the best lighting. And she does that because she is trying to capture that moment and to make it so everybody knows that this happened, that they were there. And the focus is solely on them and the beauty of them and their costumes or whatever it is that they're wearing in that moment. So really, really great stuff. Very eye-opening in terms of where we are today in society with inclusion and diversity, and just some great work. And she continued to do that. Like she had a session you could sign up to if you wanted to get your picture taken, but she went around the rest of the convention taking pictures. And if you follow her on Instagram, I'll try to get it in the credits so that you guys can see it in the show notes at least. But if you guys can follow her, you'll see some of these images that she took, which is really, really amazing stuff.
Yeah. What's really great about Reina and Issa is that they're out there to educate people. They're also educators, and they love to teach and they love to learn. And I think that's one of the things that when you approach some of these things with a open mind like that, especially when you're trying to help educate others, but also still, learn yourself, it really comes across in their work, and the passion that they had is just incredible. And just getting to talk with Reina, especially that later that evening, and we've known Issa for a while now, and her brother Danny, and it's just, but being able to just learn more, especially for me, just to continue to learn more and broaden my own horizons is just insanely useful and enjoyable to hear her talk about things. And it was just such a joy. It was one of my favorite panels, I think, was that one in particular.
Yep. There's so we'll talk about them in a little bit more here in just a little bit. Oh, by the way, happy birthday again, Danny. Danny's birthday was on this day. So it couldn't have
so Danny's Issa's brother, and he got sung happy birthday to both at Celebration, and then we also did it for him again at the meetup when they were kind enough to come out and join us for that too. So it was a lot of fun to be able to do that for him. The whole place did it. It was really cool.
The whole bar.
Yeah.
So really cool. And then the other show, just a quick shout out to Maggie, who's been on our podcast before. She helped fill in a couple years ago. Of course, she does Petticoats and Poppies, which is an EGM show that I produce and edit. And she's all over the place. Maggie of the Town, if you want to follow her. But she was part of a group of panels, like a powerhouse of women panel that was talking about how Rey defined a new generation of Star Wars, a new Star Wars generation. I didn't get a chance to go to that panel, but I heard a lot of good things about it as well. So just the love for Rey was there and certainly felt by a lot of people in that one.
It was really interesting. We made a comment early on, though, that we didn't really see as much Rey cosplay the first couple of days. I saw a little bit later as the weekend went on, though.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting how things had shifted, character-wise of what you saw in the cosplay community.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know. I'm not in the cosplay community, obviously. But I think what they were doing is it seemed like there were a lot more cosplay on Saturday. Like I don't think like Thursday and Friday, because I mean, it's got to be hot and sweaty and, do you want to dress up all 4 days? I doubt it. So
it's a commitment, man.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of people just went for Saturday or Sunday, and that's where we saw the most, most of them, because there definitely were a lot more there on Saturday, but the first 2 days, not so much. And then our podcast meetup. So Issa, Danny, Raina, Tuan, John, JR, who came out for a little bit there. Ron from Discord was there. Maya and Tim. Did I miss anybody there?
I think who came with Raina and Issa and Danny? Was it Justin or Justice?
Oh yeah, he was.
I can't remember their name.
He's from Germany, I think, is what it was. He was out at 2019 as well. No, yeah, I forgot his name. Yeah. And I do apologize for that, but funny guy.
We had a really good show up, though. Yeah, a really good meetup. It was really cool. And thanks again over to the folks over at Unsung Brewing, and also for Stephanie for helping get that organized for us and having the space saved for us. It was we had a really good time.
So my quick story on that one. So we sat down and everybody. So I bought everybody beers. First off, you're welcome. First round was on me. After that, you're on your own. And of course, everybody bought the most expensive beer and most expensive wine. That's fine. I signed up for it. But I was sitting there and I'm thinking, man, I'm hungry. And so the guys went out and got some food. And they came back and they're like, yeah, there's a barbecue place over there. And so, and it's, I don't know if it was called Texas Barbecue, but it was a Martin.
They advertised it as Texas Barbecue. Yeah.
Okay. Martin was the other guy. Thanks, Tuan. So they advertised this as Texas Barbecue. And of course, I'm a, red-blooded Texan. I decided I'd go out there and take a look. So I went out there and, because I noticed when they put the plates down, I didn't have that like Texas barbecue odor, like the scent, right? Not odor sounds bad, but the smell.
Yeah, the smell. Yeah.
And so I go back there and I'm watching the guy, and this is before I placed an order. And this big, like, he looked like a big Samoan guy was out, like he was sitting there in the back cutting barbecue up. And I'm watching him. He's looking at me. I don't think he thought too kindly of me at first. And I said, hey, I got a question. I said, what do you guys use for? I said, I'm from Texas. I'm actually from Austin. Trying to, show myself up here that I'm some kind of an expert.
Trying to give yourself some street cred there.
Yeah, of course. Well, we got like 5 of the top 10 Texas barbecue places within 40 miles of here. But so I'm like trying to prep myself up here, and I tell him that I said, but I don't smell like the mesquite smell that we have, that we smoke our barbecue with mesquite. He's like, oh yeah, well that's because I use oak, because they don't have mesquite out there. And he gets into this whole thing about oak. Long story short is we start talking. He's like talking to me about barbecue. We're going back and forth, and I'm naming the places that I've been at. And he's like, oh yeah, I've eaten there at Crates's. And we're talking about what was the other one? The Salt Lick. He'd been out to Salt Lick. He'd heard of Blacks. He'd been out to Blacks before. Next thing I know, he's like, oh man, you know what? I'm gonna hook you up. So he ends up giving me, like, I only ordered like 2 things, but I ended up leaving there with a half a pound of brisket, a half a pound of pulled pork, and half of an entire chicken, like 5 slices of bread. He gave me he's like, oh, I'm going to give you some of this and that. He gave me like these like Hawaiian pickles, like they were dill pickles, but they were Hawaiian types, which were amazing. And then he had like these red onion type pickled red onions, which we don't do.
Pickled red onions.
Yeah, right. We don't do red onions here. We do pickled white onions, but not red. But yeah, I come back and I've got like 2 massive plates of food, and these guys are looking at me like I'm some pig. Like I voluntarily ordered all of this.
First thing he came back, he's like, I did not order all of this. And we're like, well, you have it. So
yeah, right.
He was making up for that $38 hot dog he bought.
Exactly. So. But I don't know, man. Shout out to that guy for just hooking me up. Of course, they were closing up, so I'm sure he was just trying to offload this stuff so they didn't have to pitch it in the garbage. But it was super generous of him, and I think I ate most of it. The
barbecue was good, though.
It was good.
It was solid.
Yep.
Their spicy barbecue sauce actually was quite good.
Yep. So, he gave me jalapenos too. Okay.
Oh yeah, those jalapenos were massive too.
Yeah. So. A great time. Thank you guys again for to everyone that came out for the meetup. Unfortunately, I didn't have my buttons or any of the other swag, but we'll figure out how to get those to you at some point. All right, day 3. Let's roll into day 3. We had started off with Mando Plus, and we got our first glimpse of Ahsoka. Now, this footage is out there. It's unfortunately, again, another, under the leg cam, or I don't even know how this guy filmed it or whatever. But we are going to break this down at some point. But I guess the highlights are, we're getting live action Chopper, live action Hera, live action Sabine, live action Huang, if you are familiar with that character from Clone Wars. And the cool thing about that trailer is just the response, like the audience response. It's so visceral, and so there's so much excitement in the room, especially with the way that ends. You get to see Sabine walk into the shot, and you get to see her right shoulder And that's kind of how they left it. That was kind of like the big cliffhanger there at the very end of it. But I know you've not had a chance to see a lot of it, but I mean, this is good stuff, though.
Yeah, they confirmed Natasha Liu Bordizzo is definitely going to be Sabine.
Yeah.
Still a bit of speculation on who Mary Elizabeth Winstead is going to be. Some people believe that she's going to be playing Hera at this point, but we'll have to see. Of course, that's Ewan McGregor's wife now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, the reception has been amazing. And of course, anytime you walk up and see, the mural that you noticed from Rebels, you just see that still, you're just like, all right, cool. This is like Rebels season 4.5.
Yeah.
Right? And I think a lot of that started to come about, of these other, this new material is almost like a fit in between, or an epilogue of sorts in some ways. And so it's really cool that we're getting more of this content to finish out stories, but also tell new ones at the same time. And so I think that's really cool. Of course, now there's a lot of speculation on what's going on with Ezra and who's going to be playing Ezra. I'm seeing 2 other new names surface lately, so we'll have to see what comes of it. But yeah, hopefully we can get a cleaner video of that. And again, that might be something that maybe makes a little bit more further on, like Disney Plus Day. But I think that might be more of like an Investor Day call or something like that at some point.
Well, and the fascinating thing is they had Filoni. He was there on day 1, I think. I don't think he was there for any of the Saturday. He was there, I think. Well, it doesn't matter. But he left the set. I think he's over in Huntington Beach or something like that, where they're filming right now. He left, came all the way up here to do the panels, and then he was leaving again. And he kept coming up to Celebration, then going back and recording because they were actively filming. They're only a week into filming, and somehow they were I don't know. Somehow he said, although we were only a week into filming, we had to bring you something. And
that's crazy.
Yeah. So the footage,
not expecting that.
So the footage that we see is like of within the first week only, maybe 2 weeks at most. So there's not a lot, but there are some pieces in there, and there's some speculation around some things that we'll get into. But
yeah, it was cool. Rosario Dawson was able to come out. They don't film on Saturdays apparently, so she was able to make an appearance on Saturday, and so yeah, it all kind of worked out that they were able to have some people out there and make sense for that to be on Saturday on the day 3.
There's a BTS photo of her that was released, official photo, and her leku are longer now. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did notice
somebody
that.
Put them side by side just to kind of show everyone, but they did elongate them. So,
I've already seen the articles, correcting this or correcting that.
Oh, and it's not that. At the end of the day,
whatever.
It's right. At the end of the day, it's like if they went with the shorter ones because it was easier to film, that was the state of then, right? Maybe through the advancements of technology, they found better ways to do it. They're going to improve it. I don't think they were trying to get away from the look intentionally. It was just practice.
Things are always evolving.
Yeah,
it
was a pragmatic approach
with this.
So.
Yeah. Whatever makes it look good on screen, I don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
Not part of the Mando, and so Mando Plus was really about Dave and Filoni and Favreau coming out on stage. They brought a bunch of people. All the actors came out and just kind of shared their experiences and kind of going into season 3 of Mando.
Apparently, it was an amazing panel though. Dave Filoni was just on fire. Apparently.
Yep. So that was cool. The other thing that was announced that day was also the big thing was Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah,
which turned out to be I'm not disappointed.
Very different than what we thought.
No, not at all what I thought it was going to be. But I am excited nonetheless, especially having seen the trailer. So this is an anthology series that focuses around. It's really focused around Ahsoka and Dooku. Like half of them are about Ahsoka, half of them are Dooku. I think there's a total of 6 episodes.
No, there's like 9 or 10, and there's 3 Ahsoka, 3 Dooku. And I think there's 3 or 4 others.
No, I think I think that was bad information.
Okay.
So if you go to the article, like it's 6 episodes total. 3 are on Ahsoka, 3 are on Dooku. The Dooku episodes are going to have Qui-Gon Jinn in them because Liam Neeson is coming back to voice Qui-Gon Jinn as his older self. But the cool thing is Liam Neeson's son is going to come back and voice
Michael.
He's going to voice a younger Qui-Gon Jinn because we know that we're going to get a still part of the Jedi Order Dooku with Qui-Gon Jinn as his Padawan, so that's cool. They showed the first trailer. They showed the very first episode there, which was 15 minutes long. They're all expected to be about this length. I can't find footage of the entire episode, but I've watched other people talk about it, and some people took some really good notes. So I may have to somehow get that into text in some way. And we can break that down. But there was a kind of a little trailer that was put together, and we'll definitely get into that. The first episode was called Life and Death. It's a very interesting story, which I don't want to spoil it here. We'll talk about it when we get to the episode, but it's got Dave Filoni's signature. And if you know anything about Dave Filoni personally, this is like him. There's some really cool stuff in there. Yaddle's in this. They showed Rex. They showed Mace Windu, a younger Mace Windu as well. And I think what the story goes is that he was somewhere on a plane and was kind of jotting down these short stories. And I think he showed it to Carrie. What's her name? Carrie
Beck.
Yeah, Carrie Beck. And she was like, "Wow, this is really good. Do you want to do this?" And he was like, "Sure, okay." And that's kind of how it took off. But it's really Tales of the Jedi. Tales of the Jedi that we know from the prequel era, and not going back, tens of thousands of years as we had with the Dark Horse series of comics that came out, in the 90s. And
but we also seem to get a bit of a backstory with a character that we did not expect to get a bit of a backstory on.
Yeah, I don't. So I haven't. I did my darnest to confirm that, and I can't. I can't. So I forget who said it, or who did you hear that from? Do you remember?
I mean, some of it's the voice. Some of it's the voice in the trailer. Sounds familiar, but then I don't know who we were talking to. Was that Gus? Maybe
I don't remember. It was
Try the Force.
And so without beating around the bush, we kept hearing that Grievous is in this. There's a figure that's standing there.
Pre modification Grievous,
right? But he's got a double-bladed lightsaber, almost like an Inquisitor blade.
Red.
Yeah. So I don't know. I haven't, like I said, I have not been able to officially confirm that. That was, again, this is what I was talking about. Like when you're running around and everybody else is running around, and some of it, we're not seeing this all together. There's rumors that start going around and people just start talking about stuff. So again, I don't know if it was speculation or what, but nothing official confirmed that is indeed Grievous. When you watch the video, when they show that character,
so blurry right there, with the noise and the echo, it's really tough to make it out.
Hard to make it out. But there's somebody wielding a red lightsaber that's going to be, which is surprising because then it goes back to that. I mean, Grievous would make sense because,
and that's in the Ahsoka episode.
Yeah. It makes sense though, because the Sith have not been around forever, right? So this could be a non-Sith person wielding a lightsaber that would fit Grievous, right? Somebody who's been trained at least, or unofficially been trained, or just has some type of weapon expertise and happens to get a hold of a red lightsaber. Sure, that's plausible, right. I guess. All right, so we're going to
again, Dooku's story. Yeah, seems like it's gonna be pretty dark though, right?
It is, and Filoni during that interview said, he goes, "Yeah, it's gonna be." He goes, "It came out a little bit darker than I thought it would be." So he's acknowledging that this is. It doesn't sound like it's gonna be a kid's story, kind of,
and it makes sense. And what was one of the interesting things is later on, we had heard that being able to borrow or to have the reference of Dooku Jedi Lost and some of that other material really helps to inform, but also complement the new material that you make.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look at things in certain ways, and they're drawing from some of these material that Kevin Scott had made and whatever else we've had in the past. And so I think those are what really makes it cool, is that it can still fit within these timelines, because they want to be very careful not to go and undo anything and to take away the impact and the power of that original story. And so how do they do this? Because it's a little bit younger Dooku. We see them with a blue lightsaber, not his Sith lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but yeah, these are going to be interesting. I'm really curious to see what they do with these and how they feel. Will they feel like Clone Wars episodes, or which I think some people are kind of equating it to, or is it going to feel like something really unique and kind of standalone that just fits in the gaps here and there? Something maybe more akin to the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series than what we've had in a while.
Yeah. We forgot to mention Gungi, by the way. The Wookiee with the brown, the wooden lightsaber hilt.
Oh, well, that's in the Bad Batch.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a Bad Batch. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
That's Bad Batch.
I was thinking he was in this one here. That's day 4, which we're about to come to in just a second. You went to the Marvel Comics panel.
Yeah, I did.
What was how was that?
It was really good. It was a lot of the same type of folks we'd seen all weekend. So for kind of the main writers that we kind of deal with, Charles Soule and Kevin Scott were there. Alyssa Wong, who writes Dr. Aphra. Ronald, I can never remember his last name, but he is so awesome. He's the one writing the Mandalorian adaptation, which is always interesting to listen to him do this, because it's single-handedly the most difficult, but also the most fun task he's had,
mm-hmm.
Project, because you have to take something that you have all of this you've got all the visuals for it. You have to capture the spirit of the show, but you've got to condense it to 32 pages, and still capture everything you want, and then still not feel like a complete rehash of everything while you're still telling the same story. So he's like, it's a bit maddening at times, but it's a lot of fun. And there were, I think, 2 or 3 other folks up there too, and their names are escaping me. But again, it was more reinforcing some of the same things we had seen on the Lucasfilm on the High Republic publishing panel.
Yeah.
But it was, again, Blade of Bardotta was an interesting one. So the High Republic, the Blade, again, set in phase 2, so 150 years before, focuses on Porter Engle. But what's really interesting is Charles Soule said that we are going to see things done with a lightsaber. He really wanted to push what we had seen on a page done with a lightsaber, and really done with a lightsaber, period. And we know that Porter Engle is something special. And so it was really interesting to hear that. But what was really interesting, and they had said this in the High Republic panel, and you and I looked at each other, and he doubled down on it here, was in the Vader series, he introduced something called the Barrage Vow.
Oh, yeah.
And this is basically where the Jedi put themselves into exile to study the Force and to effectively kind of repent, for something. And so, and I believe the character's name is Karak and Fela in that series. And so we're going to get the backstory on that here, presumably with Porter Engle. It's going to really inform a lot of what we see him, and especially in Light of the Jedi, and why he's the cook and retired, but also what makes him the legend that he is. And this is a bit before he's the legend. And so we get to see that on the page and in the stories. And it's just going to be, I think it's gonna be really cool. And the first cover was really cool. It's just, like it's a really unique lightsaber hilt and blue blade, and really neat. So I'm really looking forward to that series. But again, Marvel Comics, man, they had everybody there. A lot of it was just talking about kind of the arcs that they've got going. A lot of interest on the High Republic, and there's on Mandalorian, there's like 27 different variant covers. It's ridiculous. I think I've only got like 20 of them.
Only 20 of them.
Only, yeah, dialed it back. But yeah, it was a good panel though. And again, I have like a minor crush on Alyssa Wong, not gonna lie. And I've started reading Dr. Aphra more regularly. And she said it herself, because I would have said, man, things are getting weird. And so she said, yeah, things are weird and they're going to get weirder. And I'm like, I'm all right. I'm here for it, I guess. It is getting weird, but it's very much like Sith Eternal and things like that. So they're very relevant in Star Wars, and the Aphra has got herself mixed in all this stuff with Sana Staros and whatnot. And it's just it's a really cool story right now. So I'm really excited to see where it goes in the next few issues.
Going back to just quickly on that Blade of Bardotta, it felt like they were setting him up, or I guess setting the story up as though like it's one of these things about confronting your idols and getting I forget the term, right? But it sounded like everybody holds him in high regard. However, there was a period of this man's life when he was not, like, I don't know. He's either a maverick and doing some really horrible things, or did what had to be done that no one else could do. But it sounds like he's got a dark and troubled past that he's different now. Like now he's the happy-go-lucky chef, right? And it is an archetype, I guess, right? You've got people that have, like I'm trying to think of a good example, but people that were in Vietnam and did some really horrible things, and because they had to, right? It was war or whatever the reason was. But then, in their older years, people only know them as this jolly person who loves life, because they didn't get that, right? They were troubled for so many years, and they had to go through something that liberated them and freed them in some way. It sounds like we're going to get something like that from him, based on what they're saying, which would be awesome to see. I mean, we've already commented. I don't want to I'm getting into this now, but we commented the earlier concept art that they showed of him. He's wearing black, right? Yeah. And that's such a stark difference of where the Jedi are during the High Republic. They're wearing golds and whites, and this guy's all dressed in black. So what does that say? I don't know. All right. Enough of that.
I'm really excited about this series, and I think that starts in October, I believe.
Yeah. Let's see. We also got to watch Triad of the Force. So our Puerto Rican brethren who did that show, I think
we got to spend a little time with them on the side too, which was so much fun.
Yeah. But Okatrina was on there, and Alden from Octu Radio was on there as well. So it was him and Gus and Katrina. And so they were up there talking about diversity, which came back again, I think, on day 4. There was a larger panel. They did a really good job, though. These guys, it was, again, another great panel that day. And these were, I just sat there after show after show after show, because there were so many good ones that were lined up on Saturday. But Triad of the Force did their thing. Shout out to them. Pink Milk was full, completely full. They're turning people away to come to this one, and this was, LGBT representation in Star Wars is really what it was about, and kind of talking about their journey. If you guys follow Pink Milk, a couple years ago he went through some really horrible stuff with the fandom lashing out at him, and he persevered through all of that. But those guys have a really great show, and just talking about, again, that representation. Of course, the High Republic came up because that's where we're seeing a lot of this stuff more than in the TV shows and the movies just yet. But its time will come. So Brian, Mark, M, and then Chase, who was hilarious. He's always hilarious, but those guys did a really good job, and they got a shout out at the very end on the closing ceremony. Yeah. They talked about how wonderful that particular podcast. So,
well deserved.
Yeah, well, very well deserved there. Got to see Newbold and those blokes over from the UK that made it out here for their Fantha Tracks live. That was a lot of fun. They had a lot of great people that came up. They had the guy from WDW that came up and talked about Disneyland and some of the park stuff that was going on. They did some music reviews. And then they had Adam Christopher, who was, again, the writer for Shadow of the Sith. And he got up there and talked about that book and what that experience was like. And it was very insightful. No spoilers, of course. And then we got Coffee with Kenobi. It was the top 5 Kenobi moments, which was really cool. It was funny to see that they had the same moments when they got up there. But at the very end, they allowed people to go up on stage and kind of share their favorite moments or moments that weren't covered. So I had an opportunity to go up there and, of course, talk about Satine and Satine's death. Satine, right. And then the after party. Why don't you take this while I die over here?
You start your voice out. Yeah, so we were fortunate to go out to, where was it? Radiant Beer Company to join John, James, and Lacey. Not participate, but just enjoy and be in the audience of the Resistance broadcast. So they did a live podcast recording. They had a great turnout. I mean, the weather outside was perfect. Got a little chilly at the end there, but getting to see their show live was a lot of fun. And Clayton Sandell was out there. It was really funny. We took some pictures with the crew afterwards and posted them online, and we all tagged each other on it. And then there was somebody else in the crowd apparently that was like, their mind was blown because they didn't realize we were there. And apparently Resistance Broadcast and Cantina Cast are their 2 favorite shows. And so I was like, oh damn, I wish we would have. One of us probably should have wore Cantina Cast something, so it was more obvious. But we don't. I mean, it was their show. We don't want it's their crew, it's their patrons, and they had a really cool setup though. They had cameras. They were live streaming for their Patreon members. They had patrons there in the crowd as well, and a little photo booth type of thing set up. And they were just having a good time. And the venue had a really nice backdoor area. It was really, and I got to tell you, best meal I had all weekend was probably there. They had a food truck out front that was doing Salvadorian food. And they had some pupusas, and they were absolutely delicious. Absolutely delicious.
I know. I got there and I had already eaten Chipotle.
Yeah, well,
I am nothing if not predictable when it comes to food.
Yeah, we have so many stories about walking, and one in particular, walking forever to go to a Chipotle for Albert.
It looked close on the map. I didn't know it was.
I give you that. It
2
did look
miles
closer
away
on the map, but we were basically walked all the way down to the Angels baseball stadium.
Yeah.
From a hotel across the highway and everything else.
Yeah, there was some moments there where my life was at risk. I'm not going to lie. I felt like my life was at risk.
Thankfully, we were in a pack. Always travel in a group. But no, those folks are so amazing. I'm so glad that we ran into Lacey and she was able to. She invited us out to come participate, and they were they really knocked it out of the park. It was a bit of emotional, a lot of fun, a lot of laughs and things like that. So they just kind of recounted their time there at Celebration and what it meant for them. And they really, John had a really kind of powerful moment of, it's a big sacrifice on families for all of us to be able to go do these things, especially as we're kind of, quote unquote, working on it. And there's folks at home taking care of the normal day-to-day stuff, and that allowed us the opportunity. And it was very powerful. I mean, and being away from kids and being away from loved ones, and, it's very tough to do that. And so it was nice to hear people remind everyone of that too, that, this isn't a family vacation all the time, but there's people behind the scenes who support us all the time.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it and got a lot of cool swag from them as well. Got a cool picture.
Oh man, I should have had it. Yeah, I got my Make Solo 2 Happen stickers. I'm on board, man. I'm all over it.
George Lucas called in.
Oh yeah, that's right. They had George Lucas call in.
That was just really funny.
That was hilarious.
Of course, it was not really George Lucas, but the guy did a pretty good job of impersonating him on the air. Okay, let's get into day 4. And this was really short because there really wasn't a whole lot that went on. A Galaxy for Everyone, Latinx representation in Star Wars. Again, it was this was a massive panel. A lot of Latino X or Latinx people up there on stage. Hector Navarro was up there. Danny Fernandez. They had Katrina was up there again. I'm going to miss somebody. Rocha was up there. I'm trying to remember everybody. But it was really about, the representation. And not to harp on this because I'm not going to, but I will talk about it in future episodes. But really, really, really great panel. I really enjoyed it. So that was great. Of course, the Bad Batch season 2 trailer. Did you go to that one or not? I know you got in.
Yeah. I had passes for that one, and it was a lot of fun. They had Michelle Ong, who does the voice for Omega. D. Bradley Baker, of course, was there, and then had the writers, hosted by David Collins. Dave Filoni came in and introduced everyone, because Dave Filoni really has stepped away from the animation side of things, but he is.
That's a good point.
As he's moved over to live action, but he's really set up a crew over there that just. And they had, what was really cool is they had a lot of the crew in the audience down on the floor in the seats, and so they actually had them stand up and be recognized as well. And so it was really cool. They kind of brought the whole crew with them, the whole staff.
Yeah.
Because it takes so many people to make these things work. It's not just the voice actors or just the writers, or just the editors. So many different people that make these things happen. And so it was really cool to hear some of those stories. And the panel itself was it wasn't super, there wasn't a lot of insight into a lot of it. You could tell they don't do this very often to where they talk about it, but but it was really cool that we did get to see an exclusive, not only exclusive trailer, which is different than the one that is released in the public right now, but we also got a clip of the first episode, which you can see a lot of in the trailers themselves, which was pretty good. And the animation is just mind-boggling good. I mean, there was a water scene, and then it was just absolutely beautiful. I mean, again, granted, we've talked about this. The animatics that they're doing on these shows now, these cartoon, quote unquote cartoons, is just downright amazing. And so, but it was a good panel. D. Bradley Baker, of course, was on point because he did so many of the different voices. And of course, when the trailer came out, I didn't even know. So here's the thing: when they rolled the trailer, people are yelling and screaming every 5 seconds. When they just see the Lucasfilm logo, they go crazy. And then there's talk, and you just can't catch everything. And so I had no idea until like that night, or maybe I was at the airport. I can't remember where it was, to where I didn't even realize that Cody's name was mentioned in the trailer.
Yeah.
Like the Commander Cody was in the trailer.
I heard about that.
Because every time it was mentioned, it was either too echoey and then people would start yelling. So clearly somebody heard it, or they were just excited to be excited. And so that's the one drawback to being in those places. Like, you don't catch everything, and it's all kind of coming at you fast. But we got to watch it a couple of times, which is cool. And it's always fun to be around people and hear the excitement. But what was also neat about that panel, though, is that Michelle Long and D. Bradley Baker did a live reading of one of the scripts from the previous season as well. So it was really cool watching them interact. Yeah, because they really do. D. Bradley Baker really does all the voices, like, live. And so they have a bit of a narrator going on that, like, sets the scene up, and it helps them do it. But yeah, you just hear them talking, and you're like, yeah, this is the episode.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Michelle Long is just, she's super cool, and it just the energy and the excitement she has to be there. It's awesome too. So it was a good panel, not super insightful, but of course everyone kind of got what they were wanting to be there with the live performance, but also the trailers and the sneak peek and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and we'll break down both trailers, because I did see...
They didn't give us a release date, by the way. They just said fall. So we'll have to figure out what the timing of all this stuff looks like. But we're getting 16 episodes of it.
We'll have to... I found both of them, so a lot of the footage was covered in both, but there are some things I think that are very unique to one and the other, especially what's being said. Yeah. That's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a different shakeup, especially where they slotted, like, the Emperor's appearance and stuff.
Yep, exactly.
We got him at the very end of the trailer, which was actually, I thought, more powerful than what the official trailer has.
Let's see, what else have we got here? That led us into the closing ceremony. Pretty short and sweet. There wasn't a whole lot there. Of course, they brought out Rupert Friend and announced that Celebration was going to be in Europe in less than a year. 2023.
Yeah, April 7th through 10th at the Excel Center.
Easter weekend. So for any of you atheists out there, this is the perfect time to go.
Gosh.
But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of people that are upset because they're like, oh, why is this on Easter weekend? I don't know. They probably got a good deal on the venue. That'd be my guess.
Maybe. But I mean, it's exciting for the folks on the other side of the pond, though, that have had to make the trip over here. It's been, gosh, how long has it been since it's been in Europe?
It's been a while.
10, 12, 13 years or something ridiculous. Yeah. So we'd heard rumors that it was about time to go back to Europe. We were just curious if they were going to pull the trigger on it and be able to do it, or if it was going to be back in Orlando, because we heard a lot of debate about what the plan is for Celebration in general. But yeah, to be less than a year away, I mean, people were basically, I think I saw Lisa Hurwitz may have gone and booked a flight and a room all that on that day. And so, and you and I are like, okay, well, is this something we're going to be able to go to? And I'm not going to be able to because I've got family events that weekend, but it's really hard to not want to go over and experience it, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
try to do it, especially for you because you love the Premier League and all that good stuff too.
I'm going to make it a week of it. But yeah, so, and then what got me thinking though is like, okay, so they do this 2023 thing in Europe. When's the next one here in the US? And is it going to be 2024, 2025?
Kind of seems like it might. I mean, we might be an every year thing. So the more I sat there and thought about it, so if we go and basically beginning of the first or second quarter of 2023, what kind of news are we going to have? Because we know we've got content more or less scheduled now through about 12 months out, about 12, 13 months out. But we know by the end of 2023, supposedly there will be a movie.
Right.
So in April, it's possible we could get a teaser or we could get a sizzle reel or something like that. We would get more firm announcements for what's happening the rest of 2023, as well as what that next stage of 2024 and beyond looks like. So I would expect that we would definitely get, in 2023, would start to look more like here's what the actual movie slates are starting to look like. And they would have had another almost year to get that, get the people and the storylines and all of this other stuff maybe a bit more straightened out. And then when we get to 2024, if we come back to the States, then you start to say, okay, this is an opportunity now where we have to really firm a lot of that up. And also, where do we go from the rest of the stuff? I mean, is there more Mandalorian? What has changed after that point? We know we've got Andor for another year too. So we know that we'll have Andor this fall, and then we'll have Andor, probably again some point next year, maybe in the fall, maybe summer, something like that. So again, we know that there's going to be new content for them to announce at 2023, and the funnel is full, I imagine. So I think there will be something for 2024 for us to get here if they want to bring it back.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. That'll probably be the next US one. I wish they would do one down here. I'm being serious. Like, it'd be hot if we did it anytime in April, but
we did make a comment about that though. I mean, at least waiting in lines and stuff was tolerable out in California. I couldn't imagine doing this outside in Texas or Orlando. Along the Gulf Coast is really tough.
Yeah, I would imagine they'd go do something like in Dallas. They've got some pretty big stadiums and that sort of thing up there, but that'd be cool. If not, I'd take a middle of the road kind of Chicago type thing. I'm not that excited about going to Orlando because it'd be so hot and sweaty, but honestly, I'll go wherever they have us go. So
yeah, and again, you got to take a lot of those with a grain of salt. But I mean, supposedly Chicago's not in the running anymore. But again, I don't. These same people were also telling me like, oh, it's definitely in Orlando.
Oh yeah, no, everybody was saying it was Orlando. Oh, 100%, it's Orlando. I've already heard it. I'm like,
right.
Okay.
I mean, they started to convince me because before we left, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is going to go overseas next year because it's just been a long time. We've got a lot of content coming, and I think they're going to want to do something over there. But they basically convinced me while I was there. I was like, all right, well, I guess it's in Orlando.
As soon as Rupert Friend came out, I was like, okay, well, I guess it's in the UK. Why would they bring him out?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we'll leave it there. I mean, it was, of course, too many memories and an amazing time, all things considered, even with some of the problems that we had.
You didn't tell the Carrie Jones story.
Oh, I didn't tell the Carrie Jones story.
No.
Okay. So I've already ruined who it is, which is part of the story. But okay. So really quickly, I think it was the second day. The first day we were there. I wore my black chrysanthemum shirt. The convention was over. Jonesy and I were sitting there. We're waiting for the lift guy to come by and pick us up. And I just happened to look over my shoulder off to the right. And way out in the distance, I saw these like piercing eyes, like laser focused on me. And so the story gets a little more intense every time.
Well,
yeah. So I looked away, didn't think much of it. And of course, Jonesy's on his phone playing games or whatever he does when he's not.
Well, MPQ, baby.
Yeah. Talking Star Wars. And so I'm like, that was kind of weird. Somebody's like staring me down. And so I just just kind of slightly looked over again, and he was closer, right? And I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what happened? Like, what did I do? I must have pissed somebody off. This guy looks like he wants to, kill me or kick my butt in some way. And so I'm like, okay, surely he's not going to like come around. And before I even finish that thought, he literally comes around me. This is a massive, big, tall black dude, comes around to the front of me. He's like, hey, can I get a picture with you? And I'm thinking, and I said, is it the shirt? And I was trying to be funny because, maybe he was a Black Chrysanthemum fan. Surely it wasn't because he listened to the Cantina Gas. And he goes, yeah, because of the shirt. He goes, that's me. And I looked up and I was like, holy bananas. It's Carrie Jones. And
yeah, that's what I looked up. I was like, holy crap.
Huge. He's huge. And when what I've been telling people is, if you remember in the Book of Boba Fett, when there's moments in there where Chrysanthemum looks at the camera because he's looking at Boba Fett or whoever it is, and he's got those eyes, and you know what I'm talking about, those eyes that look like he's going to kill you. That's exactly how he was looking at me when he was coming down. And it was recognizable, but at the same time, it was unrecognizable. It just looked like somebody wanted to, lob my head off. But super nice guy. I'll post, I'll post the picture on Instagram. I did it on Twitter. I'll post it on Instagram tonight. But just keep in mind, I am standing on a ladder. No, I'm standing on the curb when I took that picture. So it doesn't do him justice in terms of just how massive he is. But yeah,
he's huge.
Super cool guy. He loved the shirt that I was wearing, and I asked him. I said, "So are we going to see you again?" He's like, I really hope so. Really can't say a whole lot, but he goes, my guess is you will, kind of thing. So,
he's like, you guys are relentless.
Yeah,
you fans are relentless. I can't say anything.
Well, and I know somebody else had saw him at the Star Wars or the Mandalorian experience, and they had asked him the same question, and he told them that it was very likely. So I think he was just getting asked that question over and over again. So I mean, who doesn't think we're not going to see him, given the way the Book of Boba Fett ended, with that being his new tribe and all of that. I think it's just a matter of time before we do. So I'm excited for him. Can't wait.
Pretty cool stories. Yeah.
And on that note,
well, no wait. I mean, like Adam Christopher just walking down the aisle on the last day. We're in line for closing ceremonies, and we just stopped out there and started talking to him again. And and again, first time I got to really kind of talk to him one-on-one like that. But also, it was just really cool. He's just a fan like the rest of us, interested in maybe collaborating in the future. It'd be kind of cool. And when we had that's the fun thing about these is like you meet all these folks that you kind of run in the same circles on, or people that you admire, and it's like, hey, maybe there's some opportunities we could do something in the future. So hopefully we can make some of those things pan out, and we can make something work out here.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Especially with Shadow of the Sith, I'd love to be able to get some insight there. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, he was in a different panel. After a different panel, when I was talking to him, he said that he was really nervous about how this book was going to be well received. And we still can't say a whole lot, but
yeah, he's got
nothing to worry about. I think this book is going to be.
This book is for real, folks. It's good.
He's already hit the bestseller list on Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, we were standing there. He's like, I just got this, and he's like, I don't know how this is possible, but we're just pre-orders alone. He's officially a bestseller, a New York Times bestseller. So it was super exciting to be able to kind of see that I think you could kind of see that relief wash over him a little bit. That like, oh wow, this is really kind of happening.
Yeah, but get that book, guys. We'll talk about it more here. I think it comes out in about a month. It's towards the end of June
28th, I believe. Yeah,
and then like 2 weeks prior to is when the embargo lifts. So we'll do a show on that. And then I jokingly told him we dedicate about 14 to 15 hours, and he listens to the show, so he was well aware of what we do. So that bodes well.
Yeah. So again, thanks to Adam Christopher for coming out for the podcast, but also just and all the kind words and for taking a few minutes to talk with us. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that support's awesome. Okay, we got to get out of here because I'm gonna die. I can't even breathe anymore.
I'm with you.
You got any final thoughts? Any final breaths?
Let's do quick shout outs. We had a bunch of people on the live stream tonight. Again, if you are not familiar, if you're listening to this on the podcast, we do live streams usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. Even on the Patreon, we do live stream it for everybody, which is on Thursdays. But we'll have to see what that schedule is going to look like here as we get back in order. But anyway, cantinacast.com/events is where you will always see. I'll post all the shows there. Of course, it gets posted over to your favorite streaming channel. YouTube might be the easiest one, but also Facebook, so you can get reminders. Tonight we had Music Train, Twan, Steph, Jonathan, Lauren, Matthew Yarborough, Dante, Jorge Castro, Richard Williams, Ash, Blastech 333, Justin, and Janora. Thank you, everyone, so much for the likes and loves and all the comments in the chat. anybody lurking in the background, we appreciate you guys coming out and supporting the show. We hope you enjoyed what we had tonight. And again, like Albert said, we probably got 8 to 10 episodes of things to break down and bring all of that. I imagine we're probably going to start with Obi-Wan because we're so far behind on that one, and we're going to go third episode. So we need to get to move on that one here very, very quickly. So expect that to be coming soon. We appreciate your patience, letting us recover a little bit here as we get reacclimated to the Central Time Zone.
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts.
Makes it sound like it's a big deal, right? We got these other people who have traveled, 8 hours into the future.
Yep.
And we're complaining about 2
hours. We've got we got no shortage of shows coming up. There's a lot to get to, like Jonesy said. I've also got, as I mentioned, I'm going to do an unboxing of the book set that's behind Jonesy right now. So that's the limited edition book set for the High Republic. And then I've also got the Thrawn, the special edition book that came out.
Oh, snap. Yeah.
I'm going to do an unboxing video of that. And I had one other thing too. Oh, and I still have my High Republic cards that I plan on doing, which are actually pretty cool. So I've got some time to do that. But yeah, I don't know when we're coming back on the air, but you'll hear a lot from us here very soon. So I don't have I've got to work on update credits too. I've got credits. Those will be ready by tomorrow. I'm almost done with that, I promise. So, but for now, you're going to get these, and it's been a while since I clicked the button.
Oh, so. And again, Michael Borda, thank you. That's the name. Who did the Patreon change. Yeah. Thanks, Michael.
All right. See you guys in a little bit.
You're still listening? Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.